we got the downloads. That's what matters.
Do you think that they tuned out at the very beginning or after me and you started doing dueling Snagglepuss impressions?
Well, if they only knew Lucille Ball was coming later, they would have waited.
They looked at their phone and said, exit, stage left.
Park even. The gate is open.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. Welcome to the off season for NFL. We have not gone anywhere. Geoff Fienberg on the line with me to do one of my new favorite shows that we've been doing. I think it's the third year we've done it. Geoff's annual power rankings for each NFL team. Geoff, what is the criteria for your power rankings?
Okay. The power rankings, it's vague. It's like comeback player of the year before there was an AP designation. But it's really just where I would rank the headspaces of the fans at the end of the season with, what we know thus far or what we can track into the offseason. This has nothing to do with a point spread or how these teams would be matched up or ranked if I wanted one team to beat other teams in the week at hand. This is just where I think, as someone who is, a mental midget at times when it comes to my team, where I would rank other teams' headspace. I'm not going to die on the hill for like 88% of the rankings. And at some point in the middle or at places, it gets really hard and convoluted. And, you could argue that a nose hair splits it. For trying to get over those situations, I incorporated salary cap space, something as annoying as that, but it can do a little more. Average age of roster. There's more to be excited about for maybe a really young team than one of the older teams. But last year, don't yell at me. I'm not going to fight you on it. I really won't. I'm sure Pat and Tim are going to tell me where I've made a mistake tonight, and that'll fit right in. And I won't really fight them on that because you could take this any which way. So it's very unscientific. It is really just one mental midget trying to decipher how the headspaces of the fans rank, a week after the Super Bowl.
Was that clear enough for you? Tim and Cust.
Oh, no. I mean, the 6 listeners that we had have turned the podcast off. So at least they downloaded it.
I love doing this.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. But it's like the convolution of the rules that constitute this made up scale was so in depth there. There was my eyes were glazing over, and I'm on the show. So I can only imagine. You should have just said, this is whose line is it anyway? The points don't matter, and you make it up as you go along.
But I didn't make it up. I thought about it. And I even got it in, just to be ahead for production and negotiated my right to make a couple changes.
It's true.
Because, there was, someone would have been last, let's say, had a defensive coordinator been hired in the last week, but they didn't. So I had to make a change there, and the rightful owner of last place will take their spot. I appreciate that it is found to be convoluted. That being said, I think the long-standing listeners of the show know the criteria.
I think you can boil it down to, if you're a fan of a team, what's your sentiment of the team? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it in the middle? And then you've ranked all the teams together.
Yeah, just as an example, we don't talk about
Chargers, number 1, because I love them.
Because it doesn't live.
We get it. I think we get it.
I asked him to explain it. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you?
I love the Blue Jays. I do. We don't really talk about them here a lot. They sort of come to as summer chill. They are probably somewhere between the 14th and maybe 18th best team in baseball, right in the middle. But at the mental space of a Blue Jays fan would probably be 29th in baseball, if that makes any sense to sports fans. It's not about how we play, how we line up in a game.
Okay. So we have the criteria. It's all very clear. I think people are in on what you're talking about, except for Tim. We got other stuff to talk about later in the show as well. Tim wants to talk about the SNL reunion. He wants to talk about the Four Nations Cup in hockey, which is electric right now. We got a final set, which is going to be pretty exciting. Maybe a Cust Corner. We'll find out along with each tier of the rankings. But I do want to let you know, smash the like for the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, and we have booked a venue for the live version of this show, Cust Corner, June 7th in Toronto. We're going to be performing at the Rec Room, and I believe doors will open around 1 o'clock, 1:30. Put on like a 2.5 hour show, and then do a meet and greet afterwards. Tickets are not yet on sale because, well, I have verbally agreed to use the space. I need to sign a contract, and I can't sell tickets until that contract actually comes out. Now, since I am away next weekend, so the show will not be fresh, if I do have the tickets available, I will send them out to everyone who is a member of the Mayo Media newsletter. It's free to join. It's on Substack. You can find it in the description right now. Just sub to it, and if you don't care what I have to say in there, just wait till the tickets come out, get your tickets, and then boom, we will see you in Toronto on June 7th. And Tim, I'm shocked to hear it, but you told me you're excited.
I mean, as excited as I can be to travel. I'm excited for the 4 hours that we'll be together there with the fans and doing the show. I dread just about every other part of having to like get out of my comfort zone for a day or two. But I'm looking forward to the event. The event itself should be a lot of fun. We should have a fun time. But like the getting to Toronto and the being there and the getting back and like what am I gonna do? And it's like I'm not home. Like all that is a chore. But the time we'll be spending with the fans and with the show, that will be so much fun. I am thoroughly looking forward to that, and I hope we put on a good time for everybody.
I don't know if I believe him. I honestly don't. I look at this as like he's going to regret this the same way, Pat. You'll know what I mean. Like you RSVP yes to a party, and then it's like the day before, and you like hate yourself. That's what I feel like Tim is going to be the day before. You say like, car's picking you up at this time for the airport, Tim. Like we're off.
Yeah, I'm going to be upset about all of that. The only part I'm not upset about is the 4 hours or so we'll be with people. That small block of time I'm very excited for. Every other part of it, I'm like, oh man.
Your other reason was you thought people are just going to heckle you.
Well, I mean,
now you're excited.
Well, I mean, I'm not the only person who thinks people are going to heckle me. You started this podcast by telling people not to yell at you. So clearly that's a concern that
I don't think people are going to heckle you. I think people are going to be thrilled to meet you.
I think I'm looking forward to meeting people and saying hi, and we'll do a live show, and it'll be lots of fun. And like, it's not just you and I and Geoff and Pat, but also like the people who are also members of the show community. Like it'll be great to see Cam and Rob and like other people that show up. Like, I don't know if Bronstetter's around. He'll be cool to like, it'll be a whole thing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Bronstetter already clicked no on RSVP. He has a wedding that day. And how dare you have this Gary in erasure?
And well, of course, Gary, I suppose that goes without saying.
Well, I'm saying
Gary, and of course.
And we'll have
Gary,
and I have special guests coming as well. There might only be 8 of us there, the 8 people doing the show. But if you would like to come, it's at the Rec Room June 7th. Let's get to these rankings. Who is on the bottom tier of your power rankings, Geoff?
So number 32, it's probably easy, no surprise. They sold their soul. They sold their picks. They sold their cap space. They wasted great players' careers. And they sold their franchise's integrity. Another year down the road, it's the Cleveland Browns.
So this entire tier is the Browns, Saints, Titans, Cowboys, Giants, Raiders, and Jets. That's 26 through 32, your bottom tier, Geoff?
Yes, and they all like represent different things. But up next was the Saints, and probably in the moment, it was the wrong decision. But I didn't want to, because they got a new coach, so maybe there's a fresh start there. Not if they bring in a gutless guy who wouldn't teach a defense how to tackle if his life depended on it. But as long as they have, until they rip off the Band-Aid, they keep kicking this debt can down the road of this roster, of the salary cap bill, of IRS, and paying their taxes. Until they do that, they're just here. They're just a bottom feeder. There's nothing to be excited about other than maybe you've got a whiz kid. I don't even know if he's a kid anymore, unless your coach is a wizard. That is, but he's unproven. But that is really all you got all you got to hang your hat on, and I just got to get the door.
Jeff's going to go get the door. What do you make of this tier, Tim, from Geoff?
I mean, I think it's kind of uncontroversial.
So it's correct.
To be honest with you, I think it's correct. The biggest question mark for me is on Dallas. Dallas went from going to playoffs like 4 years in a row and like having excellent records, and then all of a sudden they're with a quarterback who he's not.
They have a quarterback,
top 7 QB, but he's a top 12 QB, right? If he plays to his potential, I think Dallas is the one team that doesn't quite fit into these rankings, and he doesn't even have them on the edge of this tier. He's got them like decisively in the center. So I would question, like, I'm a Jets fan. I don't know why I would feel better about my team than the Dallas Cowboys should feel about their team.
You have the best players at every position.
We do have the best players at nearly every position and a head coach who seems like he means business, but we don't have a quarterback. And like, if you don't have a quarterback at all, it's very reasonable, and you don't have a super high pick, then it is reasonable to put you in the bottom tier. And like, Dallas has a quarterback who can play. And, maybe Geoff hates Brian Schottenheimer. I don't know. Is that his logic?
I would get, maybe it's just thinking about it from the fans' perspective of the Cowboys, because the way that you hold the Jets doesn't seem to be the way other Jets fans perceive the Jets. Like, they're not like, oh my God, perennial Super Bowl contender. Like, that's what we need out of our team every single year. It seems like most other Jets fans that I talk to are like, just happy if they don't embarrass themselves. Like, that's all they're really going for throughout the course of the season. Whereas the Cowboys fans are kind of like how you treat the Jets. Like, they expect to be winning the Super Bowl, although they haven't sniffed a Super Bowl in 3 decades almost at this point. But maybe that's where the expectation difference comes in with the Cowboys, that I think they're on a better trajectory than any of these teams, because when you look at them, they're the only ones that have like a legitimately good quarterback in a stable quarterback position. Now, he got hurt. That sucks, but he's coming back next year and Dak will be fine. But they don't seem like they're close to contending in the Super Bowl. And division-wise, Washington just got really good on their watch, which sucks for them.
Sure. And then I'll give Geoff a chance, because I don't know how much of that he heard. It's the only big question mark I put in your rankings that I don't think Dallas fits in this category.
So let me do this. I'm excited to debate this. The Titans, it's a non-thing. Les Titans. They got first pick. Maybe they can do something. Who did I put them ahead of? The Saints.
I agreed with all of these rankings.
Okay, so let me do the Cowboys, because this is the distinction. It is the headspace of the fan. These people, everyone I know, I'm just going to, like the Cowboys fans that Pat and I know, these people signed up after a 3rd Super Bowl. They think they were signing up for like a preeminent franchise. Like if I want to be a Laker or a Yankee fan or like a Dodgers, like I know we're always going to run it back right and proper. These people, like, what are they now? They're like the people that decide to be Cowboy fans. I'm not talking about people who live in Dallas and you're like born into it. I'm talking about the people that decided to jump on board. The brand is like so goddamn diminished. They hired Brian Schottenheimer as a coach. Jerry Jones has fucked up every negotiation in the last 5 years. He hasn't won a single one. He's played every hand wrong. They have a good draft. Will McClay, who doesn't get to be named the GM, runs the draft. He gets a raise every year. He doesn't even go on interviews. You wonder how they get talent. They do draft well to keep like a core. But the headspace of a Cowboy fan, these guys are broken. And they just watched the Eagles win a Super Bowl and the Washingtons get Daniels. Like, they don't, if they're going to be bad, at least be like, live up to being like a superstar franchise that sucks. Like when the Lakers suck or the Yankees suck, they are just so diminished in a way where, in a point spread thing, they'd rock the shit out of half these teams that I have ahead of them tomorrow. But that's not what this is about. Their fans are like, they're pretzeled.
I think that's around what I was trying to say, Tim. You nailed the Schottenheimer thing, though.
Yeah, I figured he must have had some latent Chargers, criticisms of
I
Brian
love Mo. What do you
Schottenheimer.
think? That no, hold on. Maybe he's a great coach, but it's not the Cowboys, and it's not what people who wanted to be Cowboys fans signed up for them doing. Okay, they're gonna fuck up this Micah shit to add another contract that they waited. They kicked the can down the road and didn't do anything proactively. Nothing there happens proactive. It's a clusterfuck, and they're not what their fans signed up for. And I'm not talking about winning, but there's like an essence when you decide I'm going to ride with the Duke Blue Devils.
Okay.
If you don't get what I'm saying, I don't know. Jets fans, they know they're a clown show. They like grew up with it. Little gimmicks of, and their highs have been just as good as the Cowboys' highs, but they don't hold themselves to this standard. Woody Johnson will disappear for years on end and pop out like a fucking groundhog or something. But they know what they are, Jets fans. They know what they are. They know what city they're in, so they expect a lot. And when they're good, the league will pedestal them. But they know what they are. The Jets are a bit ahead here because to give Tim some credit, it's not like a total rebuild. There are some really nice pieces. Tim talks about them being really good at all the positions. They have a lot of good players, younger players across the roster that they can utilize for this next turnaround and still be effective players when they get good again, or they are great trade chips if they want to get rid of them. There's a plethora of talent there that if maybe a leader takes over and they stabilize QB, the team can be good. So Jets fans get a glimmer. I want to see what else was on that tier there. I don't know what else needs debating, but it seems like you agreed on everyone, but I knew I had to explain myself on the Cowboys. And that's I think I explained myself adequately.
I weirdly think that the Giants and Browns should be on a tier by themselves and last, because they're the only two of those teams that haven't quite accepted that they're not good and need to rebuild. Everything I'm reading today is about how the Browns are going to make a historic contract offer to Myles Garrett, and then they're going to sign Kirk Cousins. It's all right, is that going to work? Wouldn't it at some point be better? Listen, this Watson thing turned out about as terribly as it could. Why don't we just go into the cellar, try to get, you'll get a haul for Myles Garrett right now. Are you going to be markedly better over the next 3 years with Garrett, with Kirk Cousins, whoever the hell they bring in to play quarterback? Because you don't have that much flexibility, Tim, when you have Deshaun Watson eating up that much of your cap. You kind of blew it, and now you have to blow it up. At least the Saints seem to be finally committed to blowing it up after all these years.
Yeah, I feel the Browns are the ones that do need to rebuild. I don't know if I'm the Giants. I mean, you're in New York, you really don't get to rebuild, and it's the NFL. There's no such thing as tanking. You just you have high draft picks. You have some modicum of some talent on that roster, particularly some players who took some step forwards this year. If you draft well and you have what I think is still a really good head coach, you can get good and you can get good quickly. I don't think they need to do a complete tear down there. They also don't they don't have the sort of old skilled veterans that you could trade in the way that Cleveland does. Most of their best players are much younger. So I don't know if I want to be as lugubrious about the Giants as I would be about a team like the Browns or I think the Saints, who are just in dire straits.
The Saints are, but now at least they're committing to hey, we're not going to be good. We now need to try something different. Because they're now in year 6 of the post Sean Payton era, being we're going to run it back with the Sean Payton. It still feels like exactly the same team, but without Sean Payton and none of the good
they're
players.
They're also in the NFC South. Where
Fair
all the teams
point.
are bad.
When you miss the playoffs by a game, you're let's run it back.
A division dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
But a division where the worst of the division winners is the team that wins your division, year in, year out.
It's just the
so
they just got to pay their bills, and then
they've pushed this dead cap. They've kicked that can down the road for how many years now? They need to eat it, and then they need to move on. Because even if they do get a little bit better on the margins, if let's say they have a great draft, or some guys they picked a few years ago turn out to be really good this year, and then their contracts are coming up. Well, unfortunately, they can't re-sign them.
The thing about the Saints is I would give them like 8 spots on the ranking if in a month from now we saw they're fully committed to like a total clearing of the deck chairs. But that still remains an unknown.
Carr's gone.
So they got to stay where they are. The Giants, Pat, kind of agree with Tim. I don't like to throw them flowers, but there is talent. I do see talent. Like obviously neighbors and some skills makers on offense,
Like
and
like
the
Danny
offensive
DeVito,
line,
your boy Tommy
the offensive
Cutlets.
line, the defensive line.
Their
like,
offensive line is awful. It's like the worst in the league.
yeah, because they were all hurt.
It's not. It wasn't a prodigious offensive line to start the year when these guys were healthy.
I know, but like Andrew Thomas seems like a nice, really quality player. I'm not dying on the hill of the Giants, and the Raiders got their spot. Just I like Pete Carroll, and they fired Antonio Pierce. If Antonio Pierce was still there, they'd have a 30 in front of them. But they realized like that was the dumbest thing we could have done. Is pointless. Yeah, but I don't mind the talent on the Giants. Maybe they should be behind the Cowboys. I don't know. Both of them had to watch Saquon and the Eagles win the Super Bowl. So maybe you're right. The Giants probably could be a couple spots further back.
The Raiders, at least in my mind, are doing what I'm talking about. Now, we'll see who they end up bringing in to play quarterback, what they end up doing with Max Crosby, Tim. But it does feel, I really think that the Pete Carroll plan is going to be, hey, let's build up a roster the next 3 years. This is why I came back. This is why I'm here. I have my doubts he's going to be coaching into his 80s.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I still don't think they'll trade Max Crosby. I wouldn't. But I would imagine they're going to spend their draft picks and their whatever money they have in free agency on the lines and do what Seattle did to get good in the mid to early 2010s, because that's the path forward for a team. When you're in a division with 2 really good quarterbacks, awesome quarterbacks, and 2 good coaches, and Sean Payton, who sometimes is an excellent coach, sometimes overthinks himself. But anyway, if you're definitely the low person on the totem pole, right? So you've got to do something to get better. And what do? You hire a smart coach. You bring in a smart offensive coordinator. You design an offense and defensive line that can compete, because you can't beat them playing their type of football. You need to make them play a different type of football. So I think what the Raiders are doing actually makes a lot of sense. They're ranked appropriately because they haven't done anything in terms of the roster yet, but I do like where they're heading.
To Tim's point, Geoff, I like that this could all get blown out in free agency depending on who they sign or what they do in the draft. But it really seems to me like their intention isn't be like, you know what, we're going to go sign some guys and we are going to compete in 2025. They almost need to take their lumps a little bit like the Patriots did this year. And just like try to figure out who is like anyone we're going to keep from this current roster, bring in some young guys, see if we can find some keepers in there, and then build a culture out from there. That is the best chance that they have in this division.
Without a doubt. The only, crossover from Howie's difference between this time and last time is I don't think he's going to dominate the draft for 3 straight years coming back from college like he did last time.
Maybe
but
not,
maybe he will.
But maybe what Pete Carroll did, like he walked into a situation where he had 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen. That really does help. And the scouting that don't forget, this is the same guy that signed Charlie Fry to a gigantic deal after a Week 17 game against the Browns, only to make the proper decision of drafting Russell Wilson and then benching the guy you just gave a bunch of money to before Week 1. Like he has the cojones to do that. But when the Legion of Boom was built and they drafted all these guys, no one was drafting that size of DB at the time. And he identified like that. This is how we want to build our defense. We want to make everything. Who's the boom guy? The Rizzler.
Yeah, here comes the boom.
They brought the boom. Tim, you should do something with the Rizzler.
Boom meter, right? Triple chocolate chunk cookie.
Boom. That was Seattle's defense. But they were
Does Tim even know who that is?
I was going to say, you are speaking a language I don't comprehend at all right now. I wasn't going to interrupt. You just go right ahead.
You would both, as we all do, hate the Rizzler and his family, but you might secretly love them.
Yeah.
They give ratings to cookies at Costco.
Yeah, at Costco. They're pretty much Costco guys. They call But
but just what how he drafted the defense, I mean, in conjunction with the front office, was just so much different than what everyone else was doing. That maybe he has an angle to what football looks like, or maybe he's just too old to figure it out. Maybe just like when Joe Gibbs came back. But
You can consult with Chip, who's been in college for the last 7 or 8 years.
And
but
we'll drop this.
Chip's doing his
Both
own thing.
as a head coach and OC. I think he's an underrated hire. I think he's one of the most intelligent hires for a coordinator in the last 2 or 3 years. I think, the famous last words, I think it's going to pay dividends very quickly.
Where's he coming from? UCLA?
Ohio State, where they just won the
Ohio
national
State
championship.
offense. He was your head coach at UCLA.
He was the head coach at
left
UCLA.
there to be.
But yes,
College football's gotten so insane, Pat, that he left. He quit as head coach, I believe, of UCLA to be offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Because Pac-12, there's a lot of reasons, but it's still funny that could happen.
But I find it hard to think about, when you're the head coach. Like, when he was at Oregon, they had a certain way that they played, they drafted, and he was very good at that, almost what I talked about, what Pete Carroll did in Seattle. Oregon was able to get all of these non-5-star recruits to come in because they did specific things that Chip Kelly wanted, like the undersized offensive linemen that had really quick feet in order to run that offense, guys that wouldn't get gassed, so you could always be out there. They used their little bit of advantage with their scheme to go get players that they couldn't go get the top talent that was going to come. They were going to go to the SEC. At the time, they were going to go to USC or wherever it may be, but they were able to identify certain types of talents that fit their scheme the best, and he was able to take advantage of that. Like, if you go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, yeah, very, very impressive that you can have a ton of success, but doesn't, anyone kind of have success at Ohio State?
This Rizzler guy can play the electric guitar like I've never seen.
You think
my
that's
God.
real?
You're telling me it's not?
I don't think the Rizzler's playing is
I don't think
Eddie
Rizzler
Van
knows-
Halen there, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
What just happened?
Well, Paul sent me the link, so I put myself on mute for a moment, and the guy is playing this fantastic electric guitar. Oh, okay, this person's got talent. Now you're telling me it's all a hoax?
Paul, send him here comes
Also,
the
what does
boom
this got
or
to do with
something.
Costco?
No, he sent you the Rizzler. He didn't send you the Costco guys.
I thought they were the same guy. I thought the family just rated things.
No, Rizzler isn't part of the family. He's like a third wheel they found on the internet, and now they do some crossover stuff.
So this is AJ and Big Justice then that I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
AJ and Big Justice.
I don't understand.
And then Mama Justice.
I'm not going to lie to you. When I lived in Matawan, you think that he's playing the electric guitar in this fucking video?
He's playing it.
He's going like this.
9 years old.
He's just going like
Well, I
this
don't
in a
play guitar, so I okay. Just thought he was like a prodigy or something. I don't know. He's famous, so maybe that's why he's famous.
I got.
He can shred on the axe.
I gotta say, I once lived in Matawan, New Jersey for a year, Jeff. This family looks like every family that I saw every day. It's incredible.
I believe that. Okay, yeah. That checks out.
Because now the question is, do you bring the boom?
I still don't know the answer to that question.
Who's the Rizzler then? I thought the Rizzler was the kid.
Rizzler is the kid.
I thought he was the kid from this family though.
No, he's his own. He's no.
Is he a cousin?
AJ and Big Justice. He's not in the family.
Paul is saying he's a cousin.
Well, sure. Now they're calling him a cousin because it's like the Italian thing to do, and they incorporate a lot of their other cousins into some of their shtick. So yeah,
Not
sure.
when
Rizzler's
Cousin Oliver came to the Brady Bunch.
Sure, yeah, Cousin Oliver.
He was the Rizzler of his day.
No, he's actually a very unpopular character, and the show didn't last much longer after Cousin Oliver showed up.
There we are. Who else was on this tier, Jared? Was there anyone that we didn't talk about? Titans, yeah, they got the first pick, whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
I mean, a big joke. They tried to rebuild on the fly, right? They signed Calvin Ridley. They signed Boyd. They did a lot of things last offseason. Rebuilding on the fly, that's really tough to do. I feel like the only team we've seen successfully do that was maybe the Vikings. They chose, right? Very successfully. I don't mean last year, but a couple years ago. They did this spot rebuild when they changed GMs and shit. But I got nothing to say on the Titans.
According to the AI overview that Paul has just sent me, producing on the fly over there, Paul. You're killing it today. No, AJ, Big Justice, and the Rizzler are not related by blood, but they are all social media stars who have collaborated. The Rizzler, Christian Joseph, known as the Rizzler, here you go, Tim, this could be you one day, is a social media personality from New Jersey, shocker. He became popular on TikTok for wearing a Black Panther costume for Halloween. He is known for his, quote, Riz face, which is a squint with a chin stroke. Now he's
This
a
is like
billionaire.
I don't know what much of this means. I'm sorry. This is also very
The Rizzler-
confusing.
I think the Rizzler would bother Tim
No.
the same way Doug the Pug does.
No, I mean, if you see the Rizzler, I can see Tim seeing himself in the Rizzler.
Yeah.
You don't think that Tim would love to be famous for eating cookies at Costco and giving them like thumbs up?
I'm still not certain this guy doesn't know how to play the guitar.
Okay, buddy.
It looks like he's sieging out on guitar.
Do you play the guitar?
I don't play the guitar, no.
Oh, then here you are giving pointers when you don't play it.
Well, put it this way. I can do chords on a guitar, and I don't think that this is a chord. Just holding the strings and going like this. You can at least get some like glycerine in your life and do the four
I mean,
power
that's how,
chords.
like, in the cartoons, how, like, those, was it Goofy who used to play the ukulele? That's how he would used to play it.
Do you think that cartoons are real?
No.
You sure? Because that's what you just basically said.
But, you know, that's just like that when you, in your mind's eye, when you think of somebody playing a stringed instrument, I think of, like, merry melodies and, like, people, like, playing the whatever,
Ukulele?
the lute or ukulele or, you know,
You
mandolin or whatever.
You like the real weird guy from Rocket Robin Hood who would just prance around playing the mandolin?
There's a good example.
That's in your mind when people play a stringed
Do
instrument.
people know that?
Rocket Robin Hood? No. No, they don't.
Okay. See, I do. I assume people know that.
More people know about the Rizzler.
Evidently.
And I can't believe, as someone who's on TikTok 49 hours a day, I'm shocked you
I've
haven't
been
come across
trying.
it.
I've been trying to reduce my TikTok intake.
Just delete it from your phone.
Whatever. I just like I didn't delete the McDonald's app. But haven't been going in a while. I haven't been on the TikTok.
Yeah, but
stop it either.
does app give your information to China?
Probably.
Okay.
No, I don't think it does.
Pretty sure it does.
I don't know.
This guy, he eats 2 meals for himself with the coupon.
You could be that guy on TikTok. You just be pissed about it and then give your reviews on the 2 can dine, but for 1.
I think if I had a TikTok, it would just be me looking into the camera and just doing impressions.
Do it, please. I don't have TikTok. I'll support.
Here it's me. It's George Burns. Hi, everybody. And I have the cigar.
If you got a
Hey,
TikTok
everyone. It's
account,
George Burns. I used to have a show with Gracie. We were great. The show went off the air. We used to be on the radio. Then I could do, like, I don't know, a W.C. Fields. Hello, everybody. Like, that's what I would do. I would
That's
just
not
look into
what
the camera.
that's not what W.C. Field sounds like.
He used to sound
He
like
sounds like
this.
this. Hello, I'm W.C. Fields.
No, that's Snagglepuss.
Yeah, who is based off W.C. Fields?
Not quite.
Yes, he is. It's an impression of W.C. Fields.
Is it? Is it really?
Yes.
I thought W.C. Fields had like a not quite same tone of voice. It was slightly different. Again, I think we've alienated the last viewer of the show because there's no way to understand who these people are.
Heavens to Murgatroyd. Exit. Stage left.
Park even. I think that's what it'd be. I would just be looking dead into the camera and just doing impressions of famous people. Like I could do a Don Rickles or something like that.
All right, Geoff, what is your next tier in the NFL power rankings? I don't think we're going to get to that second show tonight.
No, because I got things to talk about.
We'll get to that in this show. We'll just make a big show. I'll run a best of night. No, I have a,
Okay,
we actually have a Cust corner that I forgot that we filmed.
Because
We
like
can- we
I
can air
gotta
that
get
next
these
week.
things out. I've been thinking about them nonstop for like 4 days.
Okay, we'll get to Jeff's rankings here in a second.
No, let Geoff do his rankings.
All right.
We'll wait till the halfway point. God forbid I break the rules.
No.
Go ahead, Geoff. Do your next set.
So, next one's hard. 25. It'll probably get a lot of attack, but it's all expectation based, and we're still 2 weeks out of the season, and this fan base doesn't feel very good. When you think you're going back to the Super Bowl, but instead you realize that the window might be over because your team's old and now you got to pay the last pick of the draft. You feel you've come in 25th. So I got San Francisco at.
Oh, I did not anticipate the 49ers, who, in my opinion, like this is way too early. I'd probably pick them maybe to win the NFC next year.
Okay, listen.
Goodness, to have them this low, there's no way
June,
49ers fans feel like this.
They were supposed to go to the Super Bowl. They missed the playoffs. They're a very old team. All their stars are aging, injured, want to get traded. How do they rebuild it with the Purdy contract? There are just a lot of questions, but it's expectation based. Now, to Tim's point, I'll throw you a bone.
Thank you.
If we do this in like June, I could see how a 49er fan could be really optimistic. But right now, they're just counting the Super Bowls they went to and didn't win and wondering how the fuck we're going to get back.
Can you put those ranks up for a second, please?
It is Niners, Colts, Jags, Panthers, Seahawks.
Yeah, okay. So, like, you have two NFC West teams there who should both be feeling better than the other two NFC West teams that you don't have there.
Not a chance.
Cardinals and especially the Rams, who everyone wants out of LA. Cardinals and Rams, there's no way that fan base feels more optimistic than Seattle or San Francisco.
Yeah,
okay.
This is nonsense.
Stafford might not be back with the Rams, which is very
Top
problematic.
wants out.
Hold on a second. The Rams are high. If Stafford, they have to get rid of Stafford for me to tumble them. But let me tell you something.
Okay.
You do not pay attention. If I know Stafford is there,
let me put out my cigar and I'll listen real close. Go ahead, Geoff.
If they know Stafford is there, they probably come in like 5th. Because what that fucking front office does, what they have done since winning a Super Bowl, replacing Aaron Donald, they have replaced everybody. Everybody. Without the picks. Now they have the picks. They hit on the picks. Every year, go look at those drafts. So that is a fan base that just has inherent confidence that things will be okay. I need to see Stafford leave to believe it because I don't think they want to get rid of him. And I don't think him and his wife want to leave LA for the Giants. That's just my opinion. I believe there are two parties there who are currently negotiating. It's happening in public. But I think they want to be together. And that is my belief, that is what I am going by. But the Sean McVay Les Snead operation? No. We can talk about the Cardinals. We can debate that because they could be in this wash of mediocrity. They don't come they're right up next. But it's been 2 years with Gannon. I like a lot. They've won more games in each of the seasons. There's a lot of young talent there that I like. I like the new GM. I like the GM there for a couple years. They've been collecting picks. He's pretty aggressive. I just like what's happening there. That's a personal preference thing. I won't die on the hill of it. But the Rams? No. You do not. You don't see how this thing works.
So, Tim, the voice of Snagglepuss was not based on W.C. Fields, as I am researching right now. It was based off the work of actor Burt Lear, the Cowardly Lion from the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, see,
and then
they both have that Brooklyn accent.
And then he sued Hanna-Barbera in 1960, and they had to adapt the voice and change it to sound what would be a little bit more like W.C. Fields after the lawsuit.
Okay, so I think we're all right.
Yeah, I can go.
No, you think the Rams should be here with how they built that team?
That's actually not what Tim said. He said that they should be behind the Seahawks and Niners.
Correct. I don't think if I were a Rams fan, I'd say, gee, I had a really, really good team the last 2 years, and my team did not perform.
It's a young team. It's a good team. It's a team that they retool on the fly. They do an amazing job. There might not be a better front office going. The way they infuse that fucking thing with talent. They bloodlet. Okay, yes, obviously Philadelphia. But my point being is they've bloodletted that team. They ate a lot. They had a lot of high-priced players that they got rid of, like from Ramsey to Donald retiring. And they have just, I mean, we could debate how good Ramsey is today, but they have just replenished it instantly through the draft. And there's no reason to think that this is just not such a savant operation.
Except that their quarterback is probably going to leave. I
If he
disagree with you.
leaves, I don't. If he leaves, that is quarterback. You don't just find them; they're very hard to replace. But if there's a fan base in like organizational, trusting front office rankings, I think this one would be like top 3.
If Stafford,
Literally.
if Stafford goes, how long do you think McVay stays for?
Then they sign Rodgers. Maybe, yeah. Maybe
I honestly think they would roll out Jimmy G over signing Rodgers.
No, not a chance. Last month, the Rodgers, if they can get that guy, I think they would potentially be interested. But you're not wrong, Pat. The TV dollars, the money Tom Brady's being paid to be the worst announcer ever. Not to say that he will make more or close to Brady, but that just rises the sea level of everyone. And McVay would be outstanding. They are all calling him at the end of every regular season to see if he wants to retire and get paid double to fucking talk about football. So you could be right, Pat. At any moment that could happen. That would change the ranking. Stafford leaving also clearly changes the ranking. Them having to figure out a quarterback situation. But like their fans with how they fucking work that draft, I think they know, like think of the players that have come in there since they've won the Super Bowl. Holy
I think it's
shit.
interesting that you've laid your cards on the table and have told us you don't think Brock Purdy's any good.
No. Okay, listen. In June, 49er fans can be excited, but they thought they were going to the Super Bowl and they sucked.
I know
They
what that's
sucked.
like.
So that is the week after the Super Bowl, their fans thought they'd be playing in that game. That is an expectation shifter.
Yeah, but,
Like,
did,
it
but,
just
but didn't
is.
they just go through this after losing in the Super Bowl?
Yes. And they went to the NFC Championship game.
And then
the next
last
season.
year, everyone got hurt.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
And then guys aren't going to be hurt next year, presumably. They probably don't have
Okay,
Debo
listen,
anymore.
fine.
That's it.
I could be wrong. I think 49er, like,
They had
Debo's
a
asking
year
for a
from
trade.
they had a year from hell. They really did.
Yeah.
Everything that could have gone wrong for
McCaffrey,
San Francisco
Trent
went wrong.
Williams, these got like a lot of shit happened there. They hired Brandon Staley, so maybe they should get 15 points because I think they've clearly gotten rid of him. We can move them up. But if I think my team is going to the Super Bowl and now I have questions of like, maybe my window is closed and I've got to do it after I pay Brock Purdy. Like that is, that's a mind fuck, but I could totally see from 10,000 feet above how you guys are like, everything is totally fine in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan is an outstanding coach. He'll probably do it again, but we're a week removed from a football game they thought they'd be playing in. So that's why they're ranked where they are ranked.
And Seattle too. Like,
Yeah,
no. I don't understand the hate on Seattle.
Seattle's spinning the wheels.
I push back on that. They're still
They
getting
overperformed.
They did overperform, but like, what's their ceiling right now? First round loss?
Maybe.
They're in the
But that
wash,
doesn't put
Tim.
you in the second
Seattle's in the wash.
lowest.
Yeah,
They're
but
in
you
the
have
wash
to,
of
That doesn't put you in
mediocrity.
the second lowest rank, I don't think.
well, they're not in the second lowest,
know
right?
how to work the
They're
machine.
number 21 of 32. Like that makes sense.
They're in
You're
the second lowest rank. Like in the, you can keep doing that rotating motion all you want.
They're in a
Jeff, but I
spin cycle. They remain in this spin cycle. This is where they get fucking ranked. Okay? 49ers and Cowboys are only here because the headspace of the fans. This is truly like they're in the wash of mediocrity. And until something changes, this is where they stay. This is where they stay. They got to find a new quarterback to take them to the next time. When they find it, I'll give them their flowers.
I would have actually put the Jags down on tier 26 to 32. Like until we see Lawrence actually do something, it's tough to think that they can go anywhere.
They fired Trent Baalke, who seemed like a noose around the franchise.
Eventually, what's this? Year 6 of Lawrence. Eventually, it's not everyone else's fault.
You're right. We'll see what he is, but it seems like league-wide, a lot of teams would like want Trevor Lawrence, believe in Trevor Lawrence, but these are fair points. You'd think they They should be higher. But yeah, I don't know. Exciting young quarterback, like some false glimmers of hope, I guess, Pat. I'm not here to stand for Jacksonville. It is false glimmers of hope. And Carolina gets this ranking only in the sense that, like, holy shit, how bottom did they feel after like week 2 of the season? It felt like a dark pit that they wouldn't get out of. And all of a sudden the season ended like, coach might be good. The quarterback might be fine. Maybe we're grading on a curve here, and that's fair. But like with the season being over, their fans like could finally maybe take like a quarter breath. That it might not be like the worst situation on earth. So
And
that
you
is
would rather you'd rather take a whack at another team with the first overall QB rather than the Panthers for a while. So
where are they? Have they been brought up yet?
I'm waiting for it.
Where
with
did you?
bated breath.
Hey Tim, when you went to bed,
I thought they'd be
when
on
you
this
woke
list.
up today and you're like, I got to do this fucking show where Fienberg makes no sense. You probably thought I'd have the Bears at like 26, didn't you?
I thought they'd be like at the very top of the second bottom tier. Yeah.
I think that's completely unfair. I think that Geoff sees it the same way. Like if he's still giving Jacksonville grace after all these years, but everyone gave Lawrence a pass year 1 with Urban Meyer. I feel like the same thing's going to happen with Caleb Williams. Like he's going to get a pass for year 1. Now in year 2, like actual, like he needs to do something. And like I can't remember a player I've been wrong about, at least the way that he performed when he came back, Tim, than Bryce Young. Like he played really good down the stretch.
He did. Well, this can happen with quarterbacks.
It's just so rare.
It is rare, but like it happened kind of with Goff, who was the first overall pick in the draft, and it's happening sided with Young. So like sometimes it's worth remembering, like guys get drafted this highly for a reason. Like they have a Liam Neeson set of skills that you don't want to forget about. Like they actually have. It's very rare for someone to be drafted first overall and to be completely, utterly unable to play. It's a very rare circumstance.
Who else was on this? The Colts? I think.
Yeah, they're just, I don't know what to make of it. This is why the Colts, like maybe they should be further back, but I mean, like Chris Ballard gets another go. It just reeks of like Telesco getting a decade to win fucking nothing while being like glad-handed for doing some things right. A Colts fan can't be in a good headspace. Like even like McAfee is like, he's the biggest hardo for them, and he's completely turned on them and exposed some of their dirty laundry. That if some of it is true, it's like, what sort of clown show like team do I cheer for? So we could debate the strengths and weaknesses of their roster, but their fans are just like not in a good place. They're not in a good place.
Tim, what do you think the defining moment for the Colts was from last year? Because I have a feeling it's that time that Anthony Richardson had to take himself out of the game because he was too tired.
And then they played Flacco for a month.
Yeah, I mean,
or 2 weeks.
I've never seen it before. I'm still flummoxed when I think about it. It's not a good sign.
Like, is Anthony Richardson like sneakily meeting us outside for cigs and like during between quarters or something? What's going on?
I don't know. It's troubling. If I were a Colts fan, I'd be pretty anxious too. But you know what? You had elite quarterback play for like 19 years in a row. So if I were a Colt fan, I also wouldn't feel too bad.
Oh, that's not true.
That's long forgotten,
every
buddy.
time that you don't have the best of everything, it's instant meltdown mode.
But I haven't won anything.
I mean, I guess
they're like went from Tyrod to Phila. It's just been so weird and annoying and nothing but like.
Are you talking about the
wasting
Chargers?
time? No,
The Colts. They had
the
Tyrod?
Colts.
No, they went from Luck to Phillips.
Yeah.
Was Tyrod the bridge year between Luck?
Oh, sorry,
I
for Brissett. I mistook Tyrod and Brissett. I apologize for that.
Don't forget, Tim. It's not like the Colts are these like prodigious Super Bowl winners. They won a Super Bowl
once.
19 years ago.
Yeah,
no, they're Colts. They're fans.
Another one, and they've just had a long stretch of significant continued success.
Like they didn't win shit with Andrew Luck. They lost the Deflategate game. They lost that game
because of the deflations, right?
Tim, hold on a second. So, like, let's say Herbert pulls a fill up. We just go forever. We're great, but we never win anything, and then we suck. Are you like? And then we truly suck for a long time. You're gonna tell me because I had good quarterbacks but never won the Super Bowl, I can't
No, but
complain.
The Colts did. So like,
Okay,
if you
but they
won the
won. But
Super
to Pat's
Bowl,
point, they won one. They feel like they should have won four. So they
if you
feel
win the Super Bowl this next coming year and then you don't get another one, and then in 10 years' time you're awful, I would say to you, you're not allowed to complain, Jeff.
I know, but they're at the point. If we're all supposed to win one per 30, the Colts are almost at the point where they can start to feel like they're supposed to win one again.
Hey,
Tim.
stop it. Stop it.
What? I haven't won anything.
They can get back in line. They can get in the back of the line here, pal.
You're the best.
I'm like Oliver Twist, except I didn't even get the first helping. I'm not here saying, can I have some more? I'm saying, can I have some gruel?
Hey,
give me a little.
Hey, look, the Jet. It's only been 57 years since the Jets won the Super Bowl, so don't forget that, Tim. There's other teams. What about a poor Paul?
Yeah, poor Paul. Yeah.
So do you
another
have to,
team whose window is closed, who should be, if San Francisco's down here, why Buffalo isn't down here is beyond
They
me.
have Josh Allen. They have the MVP of the league.
And
So do you think how close in rankings in your tiers of quarterbacks do you put Josh Allen and Brock Purdy?
I put the Niners and Bills very close to one another.
I mean,
This isn't about their point spreads if they played tomorrow.
Like, I just, it was like mindset of a franchise. I'm not sure that 49ers fans feel significantly worse about things than Bills fans do.
Listen,
you do. I don't agree.
I disagree.
I think it's two separate mindsets for one thing. Because
Yeah.
Niners fans are like perpetual like winner mindset type fans, although they haven't won shit in decades either. But they're
Not
just
since 49 to 26.
But they've been. Have they been the best team since 1980? Really, like for like over the longest period of time, it feels like they've been relevant.
Maybe?
Pittsburgh and San Francisco feel like they've been relevant every decade.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
Patriots
I mean,
also
the
they got
amount
the
of
Super Bowls in the 80s and 90s before their run.
What's
the
that?
amount of Super Bowls they probably feel like even
hold on, the Patriots, yes, they made the Super Bowl twice in that time. They weren't good for those decades, though. They were usually really bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think 49er fans are like, it's an exhausting season. And like I said, in June, I would rank it very different.
I think the 49ers ranking is crazy myself. But
Okay.
That's me. I'm with Tim on that one. I think they're just way too low on this chart. And good for Carolina. They're looking all right. What's the next tier you got on the go?
Why should the 49ers, why is, you don't mind the Cowboy one, but the 49ers one is so egregious?
Because the 49ers have been to 2 Super Bowls and an NFC championship game in like the past 5 years. Like we know what
I
their upside
agree.
is. Dallas's upside is being like maybe second in that division.
Okay, I agree the 49ers have a ceiling, but again, it's in the context of in September they thought they were winning the Super Bowl, and it was just a horrible season on every account.
Years from hell happened. Like this happened when they had to play CJ Guilty Beathard at quarterback that one.
Okay, so you guys are going to yell at me for something in the next tier too, I'm sure, but that's okay. That's part of the fun of the show.
Well, what's the next tier? Just the whole tier. I'll read it off if Jared puts it up on the screen.
Yeah, let him put it up.
So from number 20 are
Thank
the
God.
Dolphins, the Steelers, the Cardinals, the Bengals, and the Bears. This Bengals ranking is kind of crazy.
Okay, so you're going to yell at that one. They just wasted a year with the window. Like their
Wasted
fans,
two.
their fans after not making the playoffs with that quarterback, with the guy who gets the sack, with that offensive output from Chase, they are fucking rattled. Okay? You're just fucking rattled. And you think you're going to have a great season and you don't make the playoffs, you are rattled. Not only that, your owner is a fucking perpetual cheapskate. So you just have concerns about how this is all going to go going forward. With Joe Burrow, the window is always open. We ranked this thing, Pat, in June. They're like 5, 6, 7, 8. But we're not. We are ranking it after a season where they lost coin flip after coin flip after coin flip, where they won enough for this head coach who sucks to keep his job with an owner that you don't trust is going to pay to keep the team. Like, what great player have they brought in there in the Joe Burrow rookie contract era? So, yes, there's a lot. You have Joe Burrow, who's third, fourth, second, fifth best quarterback in football. You are fine. But this season was a fucking shit show. And we are a week removed from that. They wasted this fucking season. They wasted what is like an MVP level season from their quarterback and didn't even get in the playoffs. You do not feel good about that. This is not like franchise rankings of like how good the team is. This is not what that is.
I would find it hard for me. And listen, I'm not a fan of a team, so I can't speak to this. You guys are much better suited to do that. But Tim, if I had a quarterback who was one of the 5 best quarterbacks, I'd still be like, all right, we'll be okay next year.
Well, how good is Justin Herbert? Where did he come in on your rankings this year before the season? 6, 7?
Yeah, 6. It was 6 or 7, I think.
Okay, and last year I had the Chargers at like 28.
Because that's you. That's you, though. You were feeling bad.
Like, they totally wasted a fucking year. Like, I knew we could be fine. We should be fine. We have this great quarterback. The Bengals have an even better quarterback. But in the after it happens, you are just like, how the fuck did we let that happen? And maybe it could come again. And our coach sucks. The team is not prepared to play football. Rarely are they. So yeah, I don't think Bengal fans feel as great as you think, as they probably should, and that's why I have them ranked where I have them ranked.
Okay.
They don't improve this team.
So San Francisco and the Bengals so far, Tim, are the 2 teams that I would personally move up higher because I'd feel better about them as a team, at least going
That's
into
a power ranking.
I'm not as bothered by the Bengals as you are, Pat, honestly. I mean, if I were a Bengals fan, I watched my team miss the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Well, Burrow was hurt for 10 weeks the year before.
Still, you only get so long of a window to compete. 2 of them were set up, are up in smoke. And, and we're going to franchise, I see T. Higgins this year. Well, we'll see how that goes. And yeah, it's like if I were a Bengals fan, this middle tier isn't the worst spot to be. I think my quibble with them is that I would have them farthest to the left in this ranking. That I would have them as the team I'm the least concerned about in this group, even if I don't disagree with which grouping that they are in. Like,
I agree with that.
I would be more concerned as a Bears fan than a Bengals fan. I certainly would be more concerned than as a Cardinals fan, Steelers fan, or a Dolphins fan, who should be at least one rung lower. You want to talk about a team whose coach gives them nothing, a team who's really seen the window close, a team who's almost all of their most talented players have aged out. I don't understand why Miami's in this. I'll put it to Geoff. What makes Miami to the point where they should be in the 3rd ranking grouping rather than the 2nd?
Simple. Because if you are a fan of the team, whether we might disagree in moments, and you will certainly disagree with what I'm going to say, if not for the quarterback's health situation this past year, their fans could be like, yeah, we probably actually would have made the playoffs. Like, they just have the safety net of the unknown because of the quarterback injuries. And when he's played, they've played well, and he plays well. So it's more of an unknown. Like, they get the grace of like there's a bit of an unknown always.
No, there's not though. There's no difference between Miami, Seattle, and Pittsburgh in my mind.
Okay, fine. It's all a wash.
They're all on the exact same. Hey, we're good enough to maybe win a wild card game at our best.
And Miami's in a bad spot because it's a veteran team. They don't have a good cap situation.
They signed 2 into a billion years. That's not good.
Yeah, so it's just there's a lot of tough questions that they are faced with. And yeah, they feel like they're probably stuck in mediocrity, and that's where a lot of these teams are. Not the Bengals, not the Bears. They are not stuck in mediocrity. Their ceilings, the Bengals ceiling like can be as high as anyone, but you don't just get a nod. It just, yeah, I've already articulated it. And you don't have the faith that when it is time to win, the owner will go above and beyond for you to win. And in the history of this league has shown us anything in recent history, all these teams that win, there's the moments where the franchise goes above and beyond. Be it all the things that the Chiefs do, be it the Laurie and the Eagles willing to do anything. How Kroenke overextended himself for that to happen in the Rams. They had to sell naming rights to their building to pay the quarterback, and now they're going to have to pay a Jamar Chase, the worthy of that. They franchised T. Higgins. It just, yeah, I don't know. But again, power rankings? No. Power rankings in June. This is a totally different ranking for the Bengals. So I just want their fans to understand that. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. Their fans are just like, they're living that wash. And even though there's fans at the bottom who would want to be Pittsburgh fans are no longer appreciative of their situation. And in some ways, you laugh at them, but in some ways, you're sympathetic to their frustrations. But they know that they are sort of stuck in mud. And that's why they're here in the
Pittsburgh
and the Cardinals. I just gave grace to because
we don't know. We don't know about the Cardinals. They could be all right in the future. They could be the worst team in the league this year. I have no idea where they're going. But with Pittsburgh,
and if you're a fan of them, you're just like, we've won more games each of the last 2 years. There's good young talent, but it's not a situation I want to die on the hill from. I'm just explaining why they're where they are.
Yeah, and having a very strong take on every single team would be tough. But without an elite quarterback, Tim, Pittsburgh is going literally nowhere. Mike Tomlin makes them
true of any team.
No, but like that's the only thing that can make them any better than they are now. Like they are locked into basically 9, 9, or 10 wins every single year because Tomlin will get that out of them. But that's it. Like that's the ceiling until they can find a quarterback. But it doesn't even seem like they're actively trying to find a quarterback.
Well, I mean, it's not like you can just pick one up. Like, what do? You're not going to be able to draft one. You're not going to be able to trade for one.
You have to try to draft one. I mean, they tried it with Pickett. That was unsuccessful. They
yeah.
need to roll it back because signing Sam Darnold isn't going to solve your problems. Signing Derek Carr isn't going to solve your problems. Like, there is no one available on the free agent
Stafford
market.
Is available. Maybe.
You'd have to trade.
Stafford could be just fine.
You'd have to trade for Stafford. But what does that really get you? It gets you a year, basically, to maybe win something. Cousins is doing shit.
Cousins is probably available.
Cousins probably is available. Put Cousins on that team and watch them win like 8 games.
I'm already beginning to mentally prepare myself for what may be a Kirk Cousins era.
Oh my God, that's what you deserve. By the way,
I know
you really
another
post
Achilles tear.
After wanting Kirk Cousins so badly, calling him a top 5 quarterback in football, only to see him shun the Jets, go to the Vikings, and you calling him terrible for the next 6 years, only to have him back, and then we get to listen to you while the guy's a fucking cripple talk about how fucking great he is.
Only to take reprieves to tell us for moments that Cousins was better than Rodgers while Rodgers was like still winning MVPs. Those were the only graces he gave Cousins. You deserve it, and I appreciate that Tim recognizes how much he deserves this fate. So good for you, Tim.
Not even fighting it. Just getting myself ready for whatever spin cycle I have to throw myself in when something like this inevitably comes to pass.
Well,
the Bears?
Yeah, the Bears. The Bears are they
I would probably, you know what?
It's fine.
It's not a big leap, but I guess staring at it, I would probably take Tim's consultation and swap them with the Bengals. But Bears, like, in speaking to some Bears fans, they've almost like already written off last year as if it like didn't happen or it was all preseason for Caleb. And this new coach, it's like a total restart in their minds, I feel. Their organization went above and beyond. They hired a coach without meeting him in person, which was like very hard for old man McCaskey. But we got to do this now. And he did it. It seems like it was the right move in terms of like at least the narrative street of who this coach can be. And I think Bears are just excited that they almost like can convince themselves last year didn't happen, as crazy as that sounds. And Caleb's a rookie now with this new coach.
Well, they had to hire the coach quickly because, in the NFC divisional game, you had president of the Raiders, Tom Brady, interviewing Ben Johnson on the sidelines about the potential open space in Las Vegas. Who knows?
I won't talk about it again because we've beaten the dead horse. I will just say I'm going to concede the issue. I'm just going to concede the issue. My only saving grace hope would be that going
to come up 7 more times.
They move him. No, that they move him to the studio. Like he gets to be part of the studio team.
Yeah, someone like Jimmy Johnson retires gracefully, and he slides
Yeah.
into like the Jimmy
and
Johnson.
then Olsen gets elevated, and maybe
Yes.
that
actually would be best for everybody.
It does, right? That seems like a natural. Maybe this could be the perfect thing. But I am going to
CBS
concede.
did with Phil Simms when they had enough Phil Simms. They said, "Hey Phil, why don't you go to the Sunday afternoon?"
After
round
Fox
two
did
table.
its Super Bowl coverage this year, to see the like basically rotting corpses of half of the Fox panel, like let's put these guys out to pasture. Just bring in Tom, put him with Gronk and Kurt Menefee, and call it a day.
I think Howie Long still looks fine.
Sure, because he's
Oh,
sitting
he
next
looks
to
great,
fucking
yeah.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, who are like
and-
they're starting to look like the Nazi guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark after he opens the Ark.
You know,
They're just
I found
melting
myself
away.
in a YouTube rabbit hole,
Oh yeah, let's
which
hear about
led
this.
me. Which
YouTube,
no,
quote
which led
unquote.
me to the
YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
the first ever Fox NFL Sunday like intro pre-show with Terry Bradshaw. It would have been like 92 or 93.
94.
Yeah, it was just so crazy. And them like, we're here, we're Fox. We got the first ever Sunday NFL Fox.
I've seen that video where it's like almost like the Goodfellas scene where he's walking through the restaurant. Yeah, I've seen
Terry
I've been on
Bradshaw
that
is like,
I've been on that
and
same
in 1993
YouTube
or
deep
two,
dive.
Pat, like Terry Bradshaw's like the superstar.
Yeah,
he was
of
like their
course.
huge get for Fox, and yeah, the whole intro is him, and yeah, it was Howie Long is there. It's just such a
He had
mind.
just retired. Like Howie Long is then what like Matt Ryan is now, sort of thing.
JJ Watt or something, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
like a star player who had just retired.
When you're going on a golf trip, you don't need any more stress. You don't need any more costly airline fees. With complimentary insurance, real-time tracking, and dedicated support and on-time delivery, you need to use ShipSticks.com. Just schedule your shipment, attach your label, and ShipSticks handles the rest, delivering your gear directly to your destination. You don't want to have to worry about a connection, whether your clubs are going to make it and you're racing to the course. No, your clubs are going to be there. ShipSticks offers white glove shipping for golf clubs and luggage. Travel worldwide without luggage. ShipSticks delivers to 180 countries for a hassle-free, gear-free journey. Right now, ShipSticks is offering my listeners 20% off your first shipment when you go to shipsticks.com and use the code PatMayo. Go to shipsticks.com and use the code PatMayo to get 20% off your first shipment and save yourself the hassle this golf season. That's shipsticks.com. Make sure to use the code PatMayo so they know that I sent you. Welcome to the TGL presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp. It's electric. How sharp is it? How electric is it? Good questions. Try this on for size. 2 hours of hammer dropping, overtime forcing, playoffs on the line, golf, with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour, split into 6 teams: Atlanta, Boston, Jupiter, LA, New York, and the Bay Golf Club. This isn't your average Sunday pickup game. Tune in to TGL Monday or Tuesday night only on ESPN. Claim yourself a seat for the first season of TGL now. Keep up. It's golf. Well, that brings us to the halfway point of the show. Do you have a Cust Corner ready, or do you just want to just talk about random topics that you've been thinking about?
I don't know that those two things are distinguishable.
Well, I
from
know
each
you.
other.
I know you wanted to talk about hockey. That's not really a Cust Corner topic.
No, I don't. I want to talk about this Four Nations thing, and I want to talk about Saturday Night Live, and I want to get
All right.
through them at some point.
So let's talk about.
And we don't
those.
have to spend that long on them.
No,
but I want to talk about them.
let's talk. Let's take instead of Cust Corner, we'll call it. I didn't do the intro. I'll list this as Cust Corner, but we're talking Four Nations Cup and we're talking the SNL reunion. So when I do the best of compilations, this probably won't make it unless it's hilarious. We'll see. So what did you want? Let's start with hockey. Four Nations Cup. Hit me.
Until you did your show, and this is where I learn all my sports news that everybody should from the Pat Mayo Network.
It's not even the name of the network that you're
from the
on.
Mayo Media Net. Like everybody else, I learn all my sports information from Mayo Media Network. I didn't know this was a thing until you did that show. And when I heard what this thing was, I thought, this is ludicrous. this is an exhibition for no stake. It's one thing when it's the Olympics or even like the Canada Cup when they're trying to win something that might, has some sort of historicity.
Well, why is it?
But
Hold on. Why is this any different than the
this
Canada
happened.
Cup?
Well, at least there was a trophy on the line. There was like some
You don't think
history.
that, you
sure there's
don't
a
think that the
trophy.
winner's not going to get a trophy?
I don't know.
Like,
The whole thing
Here,
seemed
the winner have a trophy.
The winner's
whole
getting
thing-
a trophy.
The whole thing seemed contrived, and I doubted that these players were going to be super hyped for a round robin. And anyway, I was so wrong about it. It has been the best hockey that I have seen in like the longest time. The very first game, the Canada-Sweden game, was the fastest hockey game I had seen in so long. And then the stakes for the game Saturday night between Canada and the U.S. with the fights and the scoring and the crowd, I was like, I can't believe that this quote unquote all-star game is the best all-star like material I have ever seen.
Yep.
I was absolutely I didn't what the NHL has done here has revolutionized the NBA created a mid-season tournament that people kind of watch but like has no juice. The NHL created something that people like me who are quite plugged into sports didn't learn anything about until like 3 days before. And it has been the story of the sports world from the last few months. And I am absolutely captivated and shocked by it and am delighted to see this. As someone who loves sports, like I didn't see this coming 2 weeks ago, and it has knocked me flat on my back. And I am so happy that sports can still do that because I didn't think it was possible.
The first period of that game was the best sports in years.
Oh,
like
the
literally,
Canada-US
when I
game.
say years, I
electric.
mean years. Yeah, and it was natural. Oh, natural.
Well, you can't contrive it, right? You can't fake that.
Yeah.
Like the moment all met up and like, oh my God, that was just so crazy. And then McDavid scores and the building looked like it's like what it sounded like in Montreal when like the Rocket would score a goal or something. Like the whole building like just shook. And I just couldn't believe what I was. This is an all-star exhibition for a Four Nations challenge that was invented 6 seconds ago. And yet somehow, despite a thing not really having any stakes, it has all kinds of stakes that I didn't anticipate. And it's so fascinating.
It has stakes because the players are taking it seriously. That's the only reason.
Which I also wouldn't have expected.
I mean, I would expect it because I would guess that there was a huge directive because we spoke about all-star games probably like a month ago and how they all kind of suck at this point because there are no stakes. No one takes them seriously. The NHL probably looked at the landscape, or maybe they didn't. Maybe this was just the happiest accident possible. They looked at the all-star game landscape. You know what people like? All-star games. Or at least they used to like all-star games. What can the NHL be the best at? I mean, there's no big four sports in America. There's football.
No.
That's way above. Then there's like
college
football and college basketball. And then like the NBA and baseball. And then like hockey's basically the NLL at this point. Like it's like golf. It's like NASCAR. It's like on that tier of relevant sport in the United States. So, but it still has that old cachet of being like, there's the big four sports. And hockey gets included with that because it's been around for so long. So what's the one thing the NHL can do better than any of those other three sports? They can have the best all-star game. And I would guess that there was a directive that came down and be like, look, at least for a week, we get no buzz. No one watches the Stanley Cup Finals because teams from Florida play in it every single year, and no one cares. This is something where we can manufacture stakes if the players take it seriously, and this can be our way back into people's lives. And it seems like it worked with you. I watched my first full hockey game in over a decade. In that Canada-US game.
I mean, so it is a perfect storm of a few things. One,
Super Bowl's over.
The Super Bowl's over, and you have this combination of not only like America is on the verge of being the hockey superpower, that any of our friends, Pat, who like follow hockey, have been telling like me for like years. Like the draft ends, all these kids are American, they're dominating or doing great in the World Juniors like they never did when we were kids. And it has all like come to this boiling point. And then you throw in the geopolitical stuff in the moment, and it just made for this perfect storm of sporting amazingness. Like only the Ryder Cup makes me feel that way. And I'm not even have a country in that. I just love the sport so much, and you can see how much guys are caring. And like I'd always joke, the Ryder Cup's the best all-star game we get, and that this was better than the Ryder Cup.
But
and
more than as much as the players caring, the fans prepared like you wouldn't believe. Like for this exhibition game, they're not playing for the Olympic gold medal. Like this exhibition game on a Saturday night, you
Can you
would have
imagine the
thought it was
GMs?
Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. I mean, and it's more than that because they don't fight in international hockey. You just never see this. Like for them to be dropping the gloves and into fisticuffs, I was like, I don't know what I'm watching. And Canada is not to hockey what the United States is to basketball, like when the best on best play. Like Canada wins more often than it loses, but it isn't like this overwhelming, dominating force that crushes everybody in its path. It just it made such unbelievable watching. Like the final game between Canada and the United States is going to be Thursday night, and I can't imagine missing it. Like I'm going to watch every second of it. And if you told me that 2 weeks ago, I would have laughed. I would have said that's impossible. I'm not going to watch an exhibition game, and like I wouldn't miss it now.
If we didn't have a blizzard, like if we weren't just buried in, I only like hung out with my buddy who lives down the street, but I've gotten together with all my friends. I think we're gonna get together for
Yeah,
Thursday. Like it seems like this tentpole event that, as Tim pointed out, we so rarely get. Granted, we're 2 weeks removed from the Super Bowl, which kind of feels like the only tentpole event like left. Period.
Masters.
Um,
and anytime,
yeah,
and anytime the Bay GC plays in TGL.
anytime the GC plays in TGL,
I think this also means next February, if the best on best are at the Winter Olympics, you're going to get people watching.
Well, they are.
This is going to whet people's appetite for this.
But here, there is like a bunch of different circumstances that led to this, though, that we haven't seen best on best international hockey in, what, a decade?
Longer, yeah.
they're saying if they do this every year, we'd be jaded as fuck about
Yes,
it in 3 years.
absolutely. It can't be.
Yeah, they can't do it every year. They can't.
But they can do it for the
But
Olympics, and then they can do it 2 years. Yeah. Jared
No,
has
because
hold
in the
on,
Olympics,
hold on,
there is
hold
no
on, hold
All-Star.
on, hold on. Jared has the answer to this.
Yeah, it's going to be every 2 years. So they have another World Cup, and they're going to alternate Olympics and World Cup every 2 years. And to Tim's point about the double, like,
Wait, are they calling this the World Cup?
Well, next year it'll be, or 4 years from now it'll be the World Cup. And
All
to
right,
Tim's
but
point,
it's going to take place at this part of the year, though.
Exactly,
But
yeah,
like
every
Russia will
February.
be in it.
Exactly.
The Czechs will
That's
be in
the
it.
other part.
Exactly. And to
It's the
Tim's
time
point,
of the year.
No, let Jared make his point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
To Tim's point about the fighting in international hockey in the double IHF, like for the Olympics, you would get kicked out and suspended if you got into a fight. But this is sponsored by the NHL. It's an NHL tournament, hence why you only had 3 penalties in the Canada-US game and why you're allowed to fight. So it makes for way, way better product, and I can see why Tim gets jazzed about it.
This is unfathomable. Truly, guys. This is the middle of the season. This isn't the shit that happens in training camp.
No.
Like this is mid-season form. These guys giving it 100%. Can you imagine being like a good playoff team GM, like watching these games?
Well,
Like,
all this takes, though, is McDavid to blow his knee in this last game,
Oh,
and then it's
don't
never
even
happening
say
again.
that.
But that's everything
But
has
you
gone
saw,
right
like, the
for it so far. If one of the superstars gets hurt, there's now a real problem.
There's so much money now.
The
to be
fighting,
made.
the laying out of the bodies is so more dangerous than the fights. The fights were awesome, but
All right.
guys were laying themselves out to make hits. It was magical. We even lost. It was amazing. And I'm sure US is happy. They get their moment. Like they beat Canada. It's not going to be the last time. Hopefully Canada wins the next game. But US is going to beat Canada a lot in the years to come.
I don't even know where the last game is. Is it in Boston or in Montreal?
Yeah, it's in Boston.
It's in okay. So, do you think that the Americans boo the Canadian anthem in the final game?
No, well, they didn't boo it today when Canada played
I don't-
Sweden
I
or
don't think-
Finland, but it was a light crowd. It was a lunchtime crowd.
and it's
so-
Canada Finland. There's probably more Canadians in that
Yeah,
game
they'll
than
boo
anyone.
us.
I don't think that they will.
Okay, good. Hopefully they take the upper.
I mean,
hand
as a
here.
Montreal fan, I will say that
They
we are
boo
not
everything.
known as a fan base. We are not known for our gentlemanly conduct and our sportsmanship as a sports fan base.
And if that was in Toronto, as Pat's noted, having lived here, we most of us feel American, want to be American. We would never boo the American national anthem in
Because it would
Toronto.
have all been business guys in suits.
Sure, I'm just
more
saying.
interested in the
I'm
shrimp
just saying
at the,
the
media
way
tent than the hockey.
America is revered in Toronto.
Oh, I mean, your boy Rovell just retweeted this about the Four Nations Face-Off Cup Championship. Before the tournament started, to Tim's point, the get-in price for the championship game in Boston was $237. Tickets are currently selling for $1,300 a piece.
Oh, I got buddies who are going.
That's like Game 7 of the Stanley
Yeah,
Cup Finals.
I got friends who are going. They got on a plane. I know Hustler went. Maybe that's a sponsored thing, but
Yeah,
I
Hustler's
got
there.
two other buddies. Just like packed up. They did all their shit as soon as Canada won today. They like locked in their bookings. They paid like $850 for fucking hockey tickets.
I mean, I paid more than that for Raptors NBA Finals tickets, so I get it. If
That's
some-
NBA fine, I guess.
This, like to me, this is bigger than the Stanley Cup Final.
yeah,
honestly.
good.
It does seem that way, but it seems also absolutely, incredible in the technical sense of that word. Like, how is it credible that this is bigger than the Stanley Cup Finals? And yet it is.
Because in
This would be like Live Golf being bigger than the Masters. That wouldn't make sense.
No, that's not true though. It's like the Ryder Cup being bigger than the Masters is what it kind
Okay,
of feels
fine.
like.
Yeah.
Like when you
Except
put
if it
nations
wasn't the
against
Ryder
each
Cup.
other.
It would be like if the match play somehow became bigger.
But the Ryder
than-
Cup is like, other than the majors, it's the best fucking thing.
But
in the
but it's
sport.
America versus Europe. Like it's too like there's so much national pride at stake, so people get to pick their corners in this. And I do want to point out about the booing of the anthem thing. Yes, it happened in Montreal, but it could have happened anywhere in Canada right now. So for our American
Yes.
friends out there, people aren't booing the anthem because they hate America. They're booing the anthem right now because Canada's not feeling in a great place with the United States. And this is the only way that they can show their disapproval for it. It has nothing to do with people. The people are lovely. The country is lovely. But this is it. And that's it. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't go to the game, so I wouldn't boo either way. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. 'Cause I feel like it's the only form of protest as Canadians we have.
Yeah, I don't like it, but
people are
I'm here
torn
for
on it.
positive relations. I'm here for positive relations.
I am too, but Americans, it's the one thing that has resonated. It feels like that.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah,
And there
that's
was
that's where I'm
like
at
a-
with it too.
I will say, as someone that doesn't really like I'm not even the biggest hockey fan. I was enthralled with it, and obviously I don't care much for the Leafs, but my favorite hockey team would be Team Canada Hockey, especially when they're like not dominant anymore. Because as Pat's known me for years, when Team Canada's dominant, I actually cheer against them sometimes
too.
and find humor in them losing. But when Team Canada's like being questioned, that's when I'll like ride or die Team
Like,
Canada.
no one's allowed to hate Team Canada except me.
No, I find like
okay.
in terms of
I didn't say
in
that. I
terms
didn't
of-
say that at
No,
all.
but like only we Canadians are allowed to be critical of
Oh.
Team Canada.
Yeah.
Sort of your position.
For the Canadian hockey team, I want them to beat U.S., Russia, like all of the good teams. Although people take it like I'm sure you guys both know people like this. I don't know how much this resonates with the American team. I'm sure there's dudes in Buffalo who really feel this way, or like New Hampshire or something, or Minnesota, like the very northern U.S. states who take hockey very seriously. I don't think anyone like Dallas really gives a shit. But all across Canada, we all have friends that like this is like a moment to them that if Canada loses, like they will be broken up and might have to take the day off work. None of us are like that. Like, we don't care that much. It's just something fun to cheer for. So when Canada loses at like the Olympics to Switzerland, it's kind of fucking hilarious.
Yes. Thank you for making that point, because it's really just me. In the same way, my friends will like probably make fun of me for how I react to like the Chargers losing something heartbreak. Like they could find humor in it. My hardest like hoser Canadian friends truly in mourning when Canada Hockey like loses games, especially games they shouldn't lose. There was a lot of toxicity. I don't know. It's fun. Like if Americans are gonna like love hockey, like I guess that's cool. Like I'm not gonna be against that. But I don't know. There was a
Remember
lot
when
of
Detroit
the
used to put
toxicity.
Hockey Town across their center ice?
Well, we always talked about, and I know the Canadian team hasn't won the cup since 93. It's 93 when the Canadians won, right, Tim?
Yes. Yeah.
But
that's right.
they were like, oh, we need the Panthers to win because we need hockey to be really big in Florida. That's such an important market. Then the Lightning and the Panthers win and nothing changes. No one really cares. For Americans to embrace hockey again, America winning this and beating Canada is probably the best thing that would happen to hockey in ages.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they said that in '96 when they won the World Cup. I guess there was a strike maybe shortly after, which hurt any sort of momentum, and then another strike. But I don't know, the way they just, like Tim said, I didn't really care. Like, I knew the tournament was happening because I live in Canada and it was part of the upcoming sports psyche, and even the debates of the Canadian roster are hard to avoid in Canada. But I had no anticipation of it just like captivating like it did.
Hey,
Yeah,
I took
like-
my kids to a hockey game today, their first ever live sporting event. They didn't make it through
But
the
you were
entire game.
doing that before the
Yes,
four.
I
it
was,
wasn't
yes.
the Four Nations getting your kids excited.
No, but I
You
started
had-
getting excited, and the problem was I forgot, like, I went to go see a Mooseheads game in Halifax, so it's junior hockey, like CHL, for people who don't know. I mean, if you know anything about hockey, you would know that, but if you don't, it's like 16 to 20-year-olds playing, and just to watch the game, it was so fucking, like, the Mooseheads, I think, are pretty bad, and they were playing Moncton's, like, backups, but the game was so slow versus what I had just watched. I was like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, it's like going from an NBA game to watching a random college game.
Yeah,
Like,
but
you
it's
know,
but
you're
the same
not
reason.
gonna see
But
the same speed.
it's very similar to the point of, like, I brought the kids, and the thing that you forget, like, once you age out of being a kid and then you start watching sports, that the things that really hit for kids at sporting events, Jeff, are the mascots. The Zambonis were a big hit.
Listen, all those things are right. But bottom line, if US like beats Canada twice in a week in two hard fought games, like all I will do is like congratulate and applaud them.
Sure,
I won't be
yeah.
crying in my syrup like some guys I know who will.
The build up for the Olympics would be so on this side of the border would be so otherworldly. Like the expectations that will be laid upon them to redeem Team Canada in the Olympics from their loss at the Four Nations Cup would be like the likes of which you have never seen.
I will tell you that as someone that really hasn't followed hockey probably much at all in the last decade, truly, I didn't realize, or it didn't come to my attention until the weekend, that we no longer have dominant goalies.
We have
That
no
was like-
goaltenders.
like-
I was going through their
Like,
list.
what
it's
is
like,
going on?
that
Our
guy
whole
doesn't even-
lives, we're like 6 deep at goalies with the best goalies on earth.
Yeah, and the debate was like, do you play Patrick Waugh or is it Martin Brodeur? Maybe you
Like,
bring in Ed
Cujo wears
Belfour.
street clothes for a
Curtis
week,
Joseph.
like-
Now it's like we're going to bring a guy as one of the three goaltenders who is no longer the starter for the Canadiens.
Okay, well, I had to watch it too, because the only players I know are the players who, like, literally live here, like Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Brad Marchand. Those three guys are from here, where I'm
Yes.
sitting right now.
You know McDavid.
And I know McDavid because he's the best player in the league, but they kept playing this one guy. I think his name was like Cerruti or Sorelli.
Yeah,
or
I
something
don't
like
know
that.
who that
I
is.
had to Google to see if he was like an AHL player because he fucking sucked. I was like, how the hell is this guy on the ice all the time? He is terrible. So I had to text Meany. I was like, is this guy like, you know, like new school Shane Doan? Is he out there to like lock down like the good players on the other team? Like why isn't Marchand on? Like, shouldn't he be like tapping the back of people's fucking skates trying to get them all pissed off and getting penalties? Like Marchand's not out there,
Canada.
and this absolute fucking plug is out there. Like it's incredible.
They need to play the left wing lock. That's how they'll beat the U.S.
And the Canada jerseys are stunning.
Oh, the cream makes all the difference, doesn't it? And the lack of black is great.
And
It's
the
a
U.S.
stunning
jerseys,
jersey.
The U.S. jerseys looked like the Mighty Ducks D2 jerseys, which looked awesome.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
U.S.
I
ones
like
are
that.
nice. They're simple. The
Simple.
Canada ones are sharp. I mean, and the Sweden and Finland ones are always perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
Perfect.
they have great uniform sets.
But for Canada's played around a lot in the years, and this one is like 10 out of 10.
The best in a while. Oftentimes, like the one that they often wear, where it's like the Hockey Canada logo with the player in the middle
That's
of a
bad.
black and red maple leaf. Oh my God, that's bad.
It was like the
Yeah,
Canadian
they
baseball
wore that
team.
from like Lindros. They wore that for too long.
Oh,
And
way
Hockey
too long.
Canada's got like a stain on it. We don't want to just show
Yeah,
that.
no,
logo off.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Google that if you want to hear the entire story on what's going on with Hockey Canada. It's not great. Put it that way.
No.
It might as well be. Actually, it's probably. I don't know if it's better or worse than like Michigan State gymnastics. If you want to go down that road, it's the same sort of scandal level with that sort of stuff. The tournament has been good. Actually, Jared, you actually watch hockey all the time. Like you're a big hockey fan. This fucking Cerruti guy, is he like the worst player in the NHL, and why is he on this team?
No, they. This is like typical Hockey Canada. Remember, like in 2006 in Turin, where they
Had Ryan Smith on the team?
exactly they didn't take any
Yeah,
young
Rob
guys. They wanted to
Zamner.
build a
They've done this
team.
forever.
Yeah, exactly.
And that team
So-
was so bad.
so bad. Now this team's obviously better, but he's good. He's like a shutdown. You know, put him out against the best players.
So
of the
that
other
is what
team.
he is, then.
Yeah, penalty
Okay.
killer, that kind of stuff. Yeah, him and Brandon Hagel,
He was out there a lot against the U.S.
and he's coached by by Team Canada's coach John Cooper.
They should have brought
NHL.
John Cherry back to coach this team. Uncancel Don Cherry and get him behind the bench, Tim. Let's go! I had another hockey point. It just totally eluded me whatever it was going to be. Either way, it'll be fun. I'm actually looking forward to it quite a bit. What was the other thing you want to talk about? The SNL 50?
Oh, yeah. Like, I went into it pretty skeptical. We're going to have 3 hours of a live show on a red carpet. And like, I had no idea that they were going to do as many original skits as they did. And secondly, I was amazed at how funny almost every single one of them was.
I think you're looking at it through nostalgia-colored glasses on that.
Okay,
Some of them were
guilty.
funny. There was funny parts, but even like
The Robert Goulet one. Now, Pat and I disagree. I think people know who Robert Goulet. If you're over the age of like 25, you know who Robert Goulet is.
I guarantee you there's 30-year-olds who don't know.
I guarantee you there's almost like 50-year-olds who don't know.
No, we watched The Simpsons. That's how I would.
Okay, you know Robert Goulet from being like a parody of himself on The
Vera said
Simpsons.
that.
And Robert Goulet sang at a WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania
maybe 4 or
6
5.
He
in
did.
1990.
Okay, that's me.
Sure, and you lived in Toronto and went to that WrestleMania when you were like 6 years old. That's
But
how
he
you
was
knew he
Canadian.
was.
And
And
I'm
an
40.
American.
And I'm 40.
Like, people know Robert Goulet.
They don't.
No, they don't.
Said,
Okay,
25
Jared,
and
Jared,
over.
you're over 25 and Canadian. Tell me about Robert Goulet.
Man. No, I've never heard that name before. Not once.
Oh, I don't even know who Robert Goulet is.
No one in our fucking chat besides me knew who Robert Goulet was.
He was a big deal for like 6 decades.
To grandmas.
He was a crooner, yes.
Why didn't he have a special on CBC Weekly like Rita McNeil?
I don't know.
Robert Goulet died 17
Yeah, like 10
years ago.
Oh, gee, okay. Longer than I
At
would have guessed.
73. So how did he dominate for 6 decades, Tim, when he died at 73?
He broke out like when he was young, like 13, 14
Talk
years
about
old.
Robert Goulet like you talk about the Jets roster.
Yeah, you seem to
I'm
think
just saying,
you seem to think he's
He's
Elvis.
a famous. No, he's not Elvis. But he's
Canadian
a
Elvis.
famous. No, he's not. But he's famous. He's a famous musician.
Like
and a
no,
singer.
but he's not even a famous musician. Do you know what Robert Goulet? Probably The Simpsons is what he is best known for. That or being the bad guy in Naked Gun 2.5.
Zero
Oh,
said
yeah,
that?
that's right.
Like that's
Tim,
where I first saw him.
You're out to lunch.
Yeah,
Okay, so we disagreed on that point.
You know, disagree. You're just fucking mental.
I disagree. I think Robert Goulet is better known than you think he. Anyway, that's also a show that spans 50 years that we saw on, and it's going to be the last one because at 60, like some of the stalwarts are just not going to be there anymore. So that was sort of like the.
Paul Simon was not looking well. I guess he's 83.
No,
But.
Paul Simon wasn't looking well. Bill Murray was not looking.
Yeah, but you know
Steve
what?
Martin looked fantastic.
Yeah, Steve Martin still he's 79. He's got it going. Bill Murray, Paul Simon didn't have it. And I know why
they wisely opened with Paul Simon.
I don't know if they
gotta
wisely
start
did.
with
It wasn't good was the problem.
Well, I thought he and Sabrina Carpenter played well together.
Okay,
and
so
I actually didn't mind
this is
that.
where your take is. Nothing they could do would be wrong. It wasn't good.
No,
you couldn't hear him sing because he's so fucking old. Like, it was not a good performance. Bill Murray threw 99 miles per hour though.
Oh, he was incredibly funny. Incredibly funny. I did not see the Brian Doyle Murray part coming as the number one. I lost it. That was great.
That was great.
The weekend update was hilarious.
The number one part of the show, and they ruined the fucking sketch, was when Eddie Murphy was playing Tracy Morgan next to Tracy Morgan.
It was so fun. He had
was
his
good.
mannerisms. It was clear he had spent time studying all of his mannerisms. He had it perfectly. Oh my God, that was funny.
So I would say
I like
that
the Andy Samberg song a lot. That was funny.
That was okay.
for me, honestly, kind of liked Tim. I don't think it was as funny as Tim thought, but I kind of watched it, kind of forced it, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, despite not thinking it was as funny as Tim thinks it was.
Yeah, so I quite enjoyed it as well, but I didn't have high expectations that it was going to be hilarious. So I just kind of sat back. I enjoyed it. Some stuff was funny, some stuff wasn't. I liked it either way, but to say that all the skits were knee slappers, that is absolutely not true.
Yeah, no.
It was
Well,
nice.
no, I wouldn't say that either.
It was
but
it
I
was
thought
nice.
pretty good.
It was nice seeing all those people together. Like you said, one last time, probably the last time we'll ever see it. The number one joke of the night, though, was when Fred Armisen was talking to Tina and Amy about trying to get his skit put in. He's like, I'll save it for the next time Spacey hosts. And John Mulaney is sitting right next to him and fucking loses it. That was actually my favorite sketch, was the John Mulaney one.
That was great. Every time they panned to the crowd, and they didn't have to talk to me. There was just stars in every chair, and you could recognize people. You know, like, oh look, that's just Conan O'Brien sitting there for no reason. I mean, he wrote for the show, but it's like, oh look at all these, like Dave Letterman. Like, they didn't quite highlight the people from the mid '80s as much as like Julia Louis-Dreyfus they mentioned, but like Christopher Guest was on there for a year or two. You know, like there was that stretch of the show they didn't talk about as much.
Yeah, the non-Lawrence stretch.
The Ryan Reynolds
but nevertheless,
moment.
but you know, Eddie Murphy, like that in some ways is it's a crucial part of the SNL history.
Yeah,
The
but
Ryan Reynolds
ahead.
moment was fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. I don't know if Tim knows why people laughed at it, but it was fantastic.
Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell had to be the two stars of the show because they were the two biggest people in the show's history. So you had to feature them.
And they did, and they were great. Yeah, it was just it was a nostalgic experience. I mean, you know, I'm only in my late 30s. Haven't been around for the entirety of Saturday Night Live, but you felt like you were at the end of something last night. You know, like when they do a 60th anniversary or a 65th, like so many of these people just won't be, even if they're alive, they really won't be in any shape, I don't think, to do this sort of thing. And so like this is sort of like the last hurrah of the show, at least a certain element of the show. And those moments don't come very often in life, so it's worth your time.
I didn't watch much of the red carpet, but I did see Kristen Wiig walking in, and she looked fucking fire, Jeff. She looked awesome.
I didn't see it.
Chevy Chase was there.
Yeah, great. Chevy. Although I felt the worst sketch was the Martin Short and Molly Shannon, like the wedding one. That was a particularly unfunny sketch. Although I felt very seen in it, Jeff, when the guy said he did his bachelor party in Scottsdale. I was like,
because they're all named Scott and Dale.
Yeah, I know.
And that's where they're from, is Scottsdale.
And
yes,
also
I agree.
the amount of bachelor parties that happen in Scottsdale as well.
Yes, fair enough.
Felt very seen.
Martin Short looked great too.
I mean, I've sat next to Martin Short on a plane before. Looks better with makeup, put it that way.
Well, fair enough.
I like that. Do you know that, okay, for as plugged in as Tim is, Jeff, I forgot to mention this on the Super Bowl recap show. He learned at the Super Bowl recap show, at the Super Bowl party, that Steve Martin and Martin Short have a show together that's been on for 4 seasons. And he had never heard of it.
I can't believe I didn't know this.
Yeah, because you don't do
impossible.
streaming.
No, I don't do the streaming, although I have Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how I didn't know that Steve Martin and Martin Short were in a television show. That's like, if there's anything that's in my wheelhouse, that ought to be it. And how it went past me for years. Like, how out of touch am I about certain things?
It seems like the perfect show my mother-in-law would love.
That's my demo. That's my demo.
That is Tim's demo. Sam and I watch it all the time. Like she loves it more than I do, but it's out of all the shows she watches, like she's rewatching Supernatural again. And I watched some of it with her the first time. I was like, there's only so much of that I can do. When there's only murders in the building, comes, I was like, yeah, I'll watch it. This is great. It's funny. Just stars.
Nothing Steve Martin, I think, has ever done hasn't been funny. What has he done that hasn't been funny?
Yeah, Steve Martin is the ultimate B. He doesn't.
Sometimes he hits it out of the park.
It's been a while since he's hit it out of the park, Tim.
It's been a while.
It's been since the 80s. Like, I love Bowfinger. It's one of my favorite movies, but that's really less about him in that movie.
Mixed Nuts is hilarious?
No, Mixed Nuts is not hilarious.
Okay, I think it's hilarious.
Well, you just thought that fucking special we just watched. The Jerk is from 1983 or something. Also, Stanley
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Also from the 80s, Tim. What did I just tell you?
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride's not really that great.
That's pretty funny.
You think it's better than House Guest with Sinbad?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that movie in a long time.
The weird thing is, like you say, some of the guys aren't with us, and won't be with us going forward. The show really, and they used Fred Armisen in the role that Phil Hartman would have played, and it felt very noticeable the entire night. Like, I don't know. He was my favorite SNL person of all time. It's just, it's so weird to see like him featured in these like old parody commercials, like the best of. They're all Phil Hartman type stuff, and to not have him at this is just it stings.
I'll tell you what I loved. Now that I think about it, was that when Tom Hanks came out to do the quote unquote in memoriam of the sorts of jokes that they really feel like they shouldn't have made, but they made anyway, and you all laughed at them. That was pretty funny.
Well, after Hanks was the one who ruined that Eddie Murphy sketch earlier, so he had to do something.
Well, that's not his fault.
No.
Obviously, that was written for him.
Yes, I understand that, but just, he's now going to be blamed for it. It's like when stuff goes wrong with things that I endorse, and people are like, "Hey, Pat, why doesn't Underdog have this number?" It's like, I do not work on the back end developing of Underdog. I have absolutely no fucking idea. But you should go play on Underdog using code Mayo. If you use code Mayo, you get secret access to ask them questions that I don't know answers to, Geoff.
Yeah, that's got to be annoying.
This is like, why would anyone think that I would? Why would anyone think that I would know?
So I had to get those two topics out of my system, and I feel like I have now.
All right, well, we'll call that a Cust Corner, and we'll end with this, because this just popped up on my timeline from Luke, Sweat It Out, who helped me enter the circuit contest this year. So shout out, Luke. He said, Cust, the Girl Scouts selling cookies outside my local grocery store had a tip jar out. What do you say to that?
I mean, you're tipping them for selling cookies?
No, can I give this one for a second?
No. I know what the right answer to this is. I want to hear Tim's answer first.
Like, as long as all the money's going to the Girl Scouts, fine.
Well, who do you think?
I'm sure it is.
Who do you think it's going to?
Like, fine. I guess that, of course it is.
It's
like,
just,
it's not really a tip then. It's fine.
My wife's
fine.
a leader. Both my daughters do it. When it's cookie season, it's a whole operation. But it would be like if a box is like $4.50 and you give $5 instead of getting 2 quarters back.
Or
you
or you give them $20.
What
that's fine.
for.
Yeah.
I mean, or someone who doesn't want cookies and they just want to support. Yeah. Like, it's not a tip to the girls.
No, I'm sure it isn't. No, it makes sense. I got no problem with it. It's a worthy cause.
Oh, I remember the hockey point that I wanted to make. Yes, here we go. Okay. Not non-controversial opinion amongst us, but again, talking about those like real hardo. Oh, Canada! I cry when they lose just a little piece of me.
People who are going to fly to Boston for the final game.
No, that's not necessarily it. Those are rich people. The people I'm generally talking about, that they couldn't afford to go. Put it that way.
They're drinking like Pabst on a good day.
Yeah.
Discussing which third liner or checking liner from the Maple Leafs should be on Team Canada.
I mean,
they'll be going over line rotations.
It could be the Flames. It could be any of the Canadian teams. Could be any of them. But just the different level of fandom where it really.
And these guys are also crushed that like Canada hasn't a Canadian team. They would cheer for any Canadian team, even if it was like their team's rival. Where I would never.
How much I would cheer against the Maple Leafs in the finals.
Yeah, of course.
There's no lengths I wouldn't go to cheer against them.
Absolutely. That makes total sense.
I can't remember my point anymore.
Your friends, the super hardos.
Yes, because Drew had mentioned this on Twitter. I actually interacted with him. That Canadian hockey fans don't realize that we're the hated nation in hockey. They don't seem to grasp that concept. That everyone wants to beat us and everyone doesn't want us to win. That's what I wanted to point out.
It's true.
It's the only sport this exists for.
Yeah,
maybe curling.
That's not a real thing.
Well, it's an Olympic sport.
Sure, but it's not like
they have world championships every year.
It's not like people feel like, oh my God, we got to beat Canada in curling, or my life is going to stop. Like, no.
Right, Pat.
That's fair, but it's true. We're the villain of the piece.
Like, America is the villain for basically every sport to the rest of the world. Like, just think about it in basketball terms. And as you mentioned earlier, Canada's not as good at hockey versus the world as America is at basketball versus the world. But it does seem like the gap is closed for America, at least in men's basketball and the rest of the countries. Like, there are teams that can be competitive with them.
France nearly beat them in the final game.
Yeah, and listen, Serbia probably should have had them beat in the semifinal game when Jokic
also
started
true.
going off. And this, I've in my lifetime, this has happened to Canadian hockey as well. It's always been a little bit closer, but I guess, I mean, what was Sidney Crosby? That lost to the U.S. He's now like 27-1 playing for Team Canada. So it's not like they haven't been dominant, but they're the bad guys. They're the Yankees. They're now the Dodgers. They're the Lakers. They're the Celtics of hockey. But Canadian fans don't seem to realize that, and it's really bizarre that they can't figure
That's
that
a
out.
very insightful point.
But I think it's like, Pat, it's, because we are a very proud sporting nation, and we're not good
At
at
anything.
any of like the big North American sports in a team sense. So this is our thing. And I will, like, Americans should relish in like taking away the thing that is so important to
Yeah.
so many people. I'm not saying I want it taken away, but like as a sports fan, I get why they would relish like ripping that from us and like knowing the hosers just crying in their beer. But like I said, if they beat Canada twice in a week and like hard fought games, they just deserve it. Like there's
The win
no-
in Montreal in those settings, like my gracious, that says something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Didn't
to
seem
think.
possible. When McDavid scored, I thought, oh my God, they might blow this game wide open. And Canada never scored again.
Well, let's look forward to Thursday. See, this is what the off-season show could be. We just filled like an hour talking about random stuff. That's what the people wanted, Tim. That's why they didn't tune out.
They tuned out within seconds of Geoff giving this bank shot Rube Goldberg machine definition of how he emotively ranked NFL teams 2 weeks after the Super Bowl.
Now-
But we got the downloads. That's what matters.
Do you think that they tuned out at the very beginning or after me and you started doing dueling Snagglepuss impressions?
Well, if they only knew Lucille Ball was coming later, they would have waited.
They looked at their
I
phone
think
and said, exit, stage left.
Park even. The gate is open.
Tim, I mean it. I think your impressions thing would
Kill.
yeah, I think it would no, you don't. The stuff I get sent on TikTok from my friends, it's like the dumbest thing. It's this dude like saying like you've been it just gives the date. I don't even know how to explain it. It's so stupid. I think you doing horrible impressions, but you think they're awesome, would actually hit really hard on TikTok.
It would hit hard like that guy who always pops up on my Instagram feed, who I think he was shot and he's a part of a rehabilitation thing, but it's him like throwing a ball 3 feet and getting really excited about it. Which is funny the very first time you watch it, then you see it again, like, all right, this is a bit old. But I feel like Tim's bad impressions would hit the same way the first time that you saw it, like, this is so bad. I can't believe this.
Yeah, but the effort that he's giving and the pride he feels in thinking he's crushing it would be endearing.
I agree. Maybe you should work on some new impressions, Tim, for the live show, June 7th in Toronto at the
I
Rec
think
Room.
I'm not.
Oh, you got a list?
Oh my god.
Oh my God, Keegan Bradley just chipped in. TGL would have went great today, by the way, Geoff, and everyone chipped in against us.
Oh no.
Although the Bay won the first time around, and the Bay is still tied, so it's not that big of a deal. So hopefully the Bay can complete their sweep in TGL. Let's get to the rest of your rankings. What's up next, Jared?
I feel like I'm gonna need
Just
to yell that.
quickly, I just texted my dad, who's going to turn 63 in April. Said he has no idea who Robert Goulet is.
Wow.
Just want to put that out
Whoa!
there, Tim.
That's a big
Wow.
Is
Okay.
your dad Canadian, like born and raised?
Born and raised.
Robert
63.
Goulet is very famous.
I guess not, Tim.
Literally never heard of him.
Wow. Okay. Pat knows who he is.
I do. I'm very versed in old media, Tim. This you know
I
about
know
me.
who he is.
Yeah, I know. You know. You were making Brady Bunch references earlier to a show that happened 15 years before you were alive.
Seen all the episodes.
Most people haven't.
Cousin Oliver, the jump the shark moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's true. That really did ruin the show. And like people forget, like on the Flintstones, like the Gazoo did the same thing. Like there weren't that many episodes
People
of the Flintstones.
forget.
They
You're
do.
right.
Like people
I
think the
did
Gazoo was
forget.
like this like central part of like Flintstones lore, but in actual fact, Like, it wasn't long after the Great Kazoo showed up that show went off the air.
Hanna-Barbera info. Thank you.
I went to Marineland once, and there was a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff when I was like 6, and I was fascinated.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera Land used to be at Wonderland.
Yes, was it Wonderland or SeaWorld?
Wonderland.
Or Marineland.
Maybe
sorry.
both, because
I
they
think it
might
was
have been owned
Marineland.
by the same.
Anyway, I was fascinated by it.
Okay.
Cool story,
So
bro.
the next phase
Yeah.
of the list.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be this much controversy towards the top here.
Yes and no, because this is a controversial tier in that, like, you will tell me other teams, but there's these teams here. They didn't go their way per se, but they ended on some notes that lead to optimism. Tampa, I mean, they're
Just
kind
do
of
the
in
list.
wash.
You got to start doing the list. You can't just go.
Okay,
'cause
forget.
people forget. So just list the teams in your tier.
Most people are listening to this show.
Yeah, you're right, and I'm watching it. Tampa, Atlanta, New England, Denver, which I think is 12th, and I put the Chargers at 11. I mean, Tampa, they're kind of stuck in the middle, but they're so impressed by what they've gotten out of Baker and how the team has kind of like held on in the post Super Bowl years that they're satisfied. They're just satisfied. They know they're not in like the greatest spot, but they're still in a bit of an afterglow of a couple of things. And then it gets a little tricky, right? Because you got these 3 teams. They all had rookie quarterbacks. Atlanta, New England, Denver. Atlanta should be so low. Their coach sucks. And that was
That's your
thing
guy.
that I might have
That's
been,
your guy. You were telling me how great
the
he was.
thing that I might have been the most wrong about all of last year was that the coach was fine. The coach would be good. He's an idiot. He's as dumb as some of the dumbest coaches we have seen work a clock in the last handful of years. Like, Eberflus got so much flack for Thanksgiving. This guy did it like 5 times. Did it 5 times, I swear. But the way that kid threw the football in those last few games, that's just enough for a Falcon fan to be excited. Because that kid, he puts it on the numbers and he delivers it. And it looked like he went through progressions. And so for that, he gets flowers from me. Patriots, if this is in June in a power ranking, this isn't going to be fun for you. But right now, between how maybe it's too much praise of Drake May, but you're liking it. You're drinking it up. You're excited. You've got more money than God to spend. You just don't think, you're worried no one will take it. That's the problem. Players don't want to go there. But they got Vrabel. So between the quarterback and them getting a coach who I think we kind of agree is a good coach, but probably overrated in the sense of how he's being built, of what he is. No, he didn't win the things he's being talked about having won. Despite that, I get why Patriots fans think they've gotten their perfect coach. So they go into an offseason with coach, with quarterback. Good for them. Broncos, you could make the case they should be ahead of the Chargers, but I do the list. So I wasn't sending that in. I just wasn't. I put the Broncos ahead, but what a year they had. They have a coach. Looks like they have the quarterback. Check. They thoroughly overachieved. They should be so excited. In some ways, maybe they should be ahead of the Chargers. And then there's the Chargers, who it didn't end how I wanted it to end, but just what a great year of football. It really felt like the compete level was so goddamn high. The ability to tackle and rally to the football. The Harbaugh installation was felt instantaneously. It was. And coming from the dumbest fucking coach, it felt great. And then the GM hit on a lot of things that gets me excited for what this guy can do. $100 million in cap room. They can really start to create it in their own vision. I believe there's ultra high QB play here as well with this team. I expect them to be competing in the same spots they were competing in last year and bringing in some, what do you call it? Like better wins, right? There was not a high profile win. Their best wins were Denver. Good for Denver, not good for the Chargers, in my opinion. They did not win any high profile games, but they won 5 games the year before. So I wasn't in a position to get there. Next year, they better win a high profile game or two. So that's the tier. I totally get it. Like maybe the Bengals and 49ers really should be here, and they will be way ahead of these teams in June. But all those fan bases, I think, got like nuggets that have them pleased.
I don't have a lot to critique on this tier, Tim.
No,
I just don't
I don't
understand.
either.
I just don't understand how Atlanta would be ahead of Tampa Bay.
Okay, fair. I'm not dying on that. The quarterback, like because
Tampa
the
has
quarterback-
Tampa has its quarterback. That's good.
Okay, fine, but with Atlanta, you are now in this moment of like
They're in the
I'm not saying
no, Atlanta is in exactly the same spot they have been for each of the past 3 seasons. Oh my God, next year we're going to be really good. And then they're not.
Oh, you're right, but
But for a
now it's
slightly different
different
reason
because
this
it's a
time.
really young
Yeah.
quarterback who like if you're a Falcon fan, like you can believe maybe this guy's gonna be like a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league. Like so
I
they
agree.
can spend the offseason thinking maybe that's something that they have. So that is why the ceiling feels a bit higher.
Oh, see,
but
I
that's a fair
disagree.
point.
Although Tampa's going to lose Godwin coming off an injury, they didn't have him during this run. Tampa Bay feels like they're one draft away from, like, if they nail this year's draft and they can get like 3 really good pieces, that they could actually be a very good team next year. Instead of being like a team that, hey, maybe they'll win the wild card game, like win the division, maybe win in the wild card round and move on and like get beat up by whoever's next. Like if they could find like 3 more really good players, they could be really good, Tim.
Okay, hold on, because I want to put a bow on Tampa, and then you guys can debate my whole ranking.
I asked him
Just
about
like
Tampa.
last year they lost Canales, this year they lose Liam Cohen. I look at that 2 ways. Todd Bowles is like excellent at picking at that side of the ball and really doing nothing and like leaving them alone. But it's like, are they going to strike lightning 3 times in a row?
Maybe it's Baker.
So that was a concern.
Like the same way that I kind of critiqued Trevor Lawrence a little bit earlier, Tim, about, you know, how many times do we get to blame the coordinator, the GM, the coach before we blame the player? Baker's kind of the opposite at this point where, oh, it's all the coordinator. They're just pumping up this offense. Maybe it kind of coincides with the moment that Baker showed up and this started happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I still think the QB upside in Atlanta, based on where he was and where they drafted him, justifies
Not you just made the case for number 1 overall picks like an hour ago.
But I was going to finish my point. But if you wanted to contend that Tampa should be ahead, that's fine too. I really don't feel that strongly about it. I both think they're in the right tier. I might be slightly more inclined towards Atlanta than Tampa. But, you know, like Tampa obviously has the track record of being successful and having won the division like 4 years in a row or 3 of the last 4 years or something. So, you know, I mean, both teams should, like, this is the tier that I think that San Francisco should have been in.
Maybe, yeah.
But I don't have a problem with any of the teams in this tier. I think that's fine. Maybe the Patriots are the one team that's like, okay, their quarterback looked pretty good, but they don't have any other players on this entire roster. And so if I'm a Patriots fan, it's not like I expect to make the playoffs coming into this season. It's probably not going to happen. So maybe I might have had New England. I might have flopped Cincinnati and New England if you gave me my druthers.
Maybe just the diarrhea coming out of like, I don't know why the like Boston radio channels are on my YouTube feed and like they think they hired the second
Well, maybe. I suppose that's true.
coming
If
of
you're
a
a
coach.
Patriots
So it's just
fan, you
their
think
head
that you
spaces
hired.
they have hired
Yeah, okay.
this like incredible coach to go with this quarterback. But you're
Okay.
right, the roster is bare, and there are reports like players just don't even want to take their money. They have to overpay for anyone. It's weird to think that's what's happened, but apparently it's the case.
I don't really have much to say about like the Chargers or Broncos. I kind of agree.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, it's more fun to talk about the teams at the bottom, I think, than the teams in the top. So give me your next tier, Jeff.
Houston, they come in 10th, right? Like things weren't perfect last year, but in the end they were where they needed to be, and you just see signs of a lot of injuries they battled through. Division sucks. They get a keep kicking the can. The Rams, which I guess is controversial, and the Stafford things is an asterisk. So I'll acknowledge that. If we do this in 2 or 3 weeks, this could be different. But I don't want to regurgitate everything I said about them earlier. I'm obviously quite bullish about them as an organization, and I think anyone who's a big fan of them and follows them closely has now like handed them their unwavering belief and trust. So that's where they come in. Green Bay, Minnesota, you could have ranked however you wanted. Like I flip-flopped. In the end, you have the unknown of the quarterback, which could backfire, but like the unknown also allows you to think maybe he's even better than the projection, and the coach is just so fucking good that they seem like they're in a safe space. And Detroit still comes, I think this would be 6th if we're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, great season. Everything seemed perfect, but now the season's over. They didn't achieve the goal. They lost the coordinators, and their quarterback is the worst quarterback. There's not a quarterback in the top 5 that their quarterback's better than. So I don't think you can guarantee. Culture can guarantee.
Shouldn't that not come down a little bit then? If I'm a Lions fan, I'm like, the last 2 years were definitely my window, and my team blew
but
the
I don't
NFC
want to put the
Championship
Vikings
game.
ahead of the Lions, do I?
Well, I'm just saying, if I'm a Detroit fan, 2 years ago my team didn't go to the Super Bowl because my team blew a huge lead in the NFC Championship game. This year was my year; everything was super special, and then in the blink of an eye, that quarterback threw 4 picks in the divisional round, and I got nowhere. And as you just stated, look, 3 of the teams that like 2 of the 4 teams in your division are in this tier with you, and you have the worst quarterback of the bunch. And like, if I'm a Lions fan, don't I feel like I kind of missed my moment?
Yeah, you're scared, but I felt putting them 6 was a big enough penalty because they were so good. They've been so good for 2 years.
I think that the biggest thing is what Tim pointed out is that 2 years ago they blew a giant lead against number like 31 in Jeff's power rankings to the Niners. So that's tough.
Yeah. The worst team in the NFC, the 49ers.
No, they're not the worst. This is not a power rank. This is not a power rank.
It's funny because I actually see Detroit and San Francisco in very similar veins as how their season went this year.
It's fresher, and they don't feel like.
But they had
San Francisco.
Like San Francisco had the year from hell in terms of injuries. Detroit had the last quarter of the season year for hell. Like as soon as Hutchinson went down, they were able to piece it together. Then they just lost too many guys on defense. And when you have Geoff can be a front runner or a close game. He's not a guy who's going to come back for you. Unless it's against Houston and he threw 5 picks in that game. That's when we knew about Houston, that unless they're playing the Chargers, they're probably not very good. But they just lost too many guys. So I would feel worried about losing the coordinators. I would feel good that when the defense comes back next year, it should be much better than what we saw at the end of the season, and the offense should look relatively the same, even with the loss of Ben Johnson.
Yeah. And Aaron Glenn, which is probably
everything you guys have said are like all very fair points. Maybe I'm grading on a curve of like where, still like where they were like 3 years ago is kind of like maybe plays a role in me thinking, like, shut up, fans, enjoy your gruel, right? Like you die for this gruel 3 years ago. So maybe that's a bit of it. Brad Holmes, just an outstanding talent evaluator, decision maker in that respect. But yeah, now that we talk through it as pals, if you put them behind other northern teams, I think that's fair. I've already acknowledged I was probably a little too hard on the 49ers, but again, it's not a power ranking, and they got a taste of a window closing. When the Lions get that taste of it, they'll tumble. They will tumble, but we'll see.
Our Bay has retaken the lead against the Boston Common 4-3, and now into singles on the 13th hole. And Keegan Bradley, I just saw a picture of Keegan Bradley pop up. He needs to lose this fucking mustache, man. He looks like a guy that moves into the area and has to show up to your door and tell you who he is.
He just
Did
drove.
you-
He
can I,
just drove the green on a par 4.
You know, as we just mentioned, the team from the Bay and, you know, the Lightning Bolts, formerly of San Diego. Did you guys see the hot mic of the Atlanta team? I don't know if it was a hot mic, but talking about Ludwig earlier today.
No, what did they say?
No.
They're just like, this guy is incredible. He will not make a mistake. Like, he won't make it in real life, let alone on this fucking simulator.
So it's just like
they were like,
when they get to like Broncos camp and they show NFL films and there's like a conversation on the side, it's like, oh my God, that Herbert, he's so sexy. And you're like, oh my God, this is what you're sounding like now.
yeah, for sure. Like when Drew Brees comes to visit Charger camp, then they catch him like mic'd up, and I'm like, how amazing that guy is. You're right. There you are. There you are, Tim. And I guess we should note, I wasn't aware, Tim. It was brought to my attention after the fact that you sent one golf tweet out yesterday, and it was to throw shade at Ludwig.
Well, both Ludwig and at Torrey Pines. I'm not sure which of those.
Two things I love.
Yeah, I don't know which I was sort of.
I felt like you,
taking a shot at
seeing it
more.
after the fact, you were like subtweeting me, I think.
No, just I was subtweeting I was just having some fun with Ludwig, who made a terrible 5 after he had already made 2 other 5s. But then he played great, so congratulations to him. He played great. He
And
deserved to win.
last year, you were so hard on him. You talked about him like he was Rory or something.
Well, because people talk about him like he's Rory.
You
And
talk
QED, you
talk to Geoff, who talks like that.
Well, apparently people on the Atlanta team do too.
They do now. Now he's one of Torrey Pines.
He wanted Torrey Pines in the Genesis, not at Riviera. I mean, sure, okay, he wanted a place he played for.
Which win is more official, this one or Hideki's Players?
I mean, obviously,
The
this one.
the
is
players
more.
tweeted out that Hideki didn't win. They said he had
well.
never had better than a top 5 finish at the
Well,
Players
that's-
from the
that's
official
contestable.
players account.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, Ludwig played great. It was an elevated event, so that's something. We'll see how he does at Augusta.
He finished second as a rookie at Augusta. Let's see how he'll do.
Let's see how he'll do. Let's see how he'll do. I'm not going to say
still-
anything positive or negative. We'll see how he does.
No, you're saying like as if no, whatever. I'm not doing this.
If he
Let's
plays
keep
great,
the
he plays
right-
great. You know, I've not nothing against him.
And if he plays horrible, what does that mean? That means something.
No, it doesn't mean anything either.
Thank you.
Okay, the rest of your power rankings.
We're at 5, so it's kind of obvious now. This is, I mean, you guys can bring this home. You can
Okay,
debate it any way you want.
I didn't realize this was all one tier. I didn't know if you had like someone like the Eagles,
Well-
especially in one tier. So just give me your 5, 1 through 5.
So the Ravens are 5th, the Bills are 4th, the Chiefs are 3rd, the Commandos are 2nd, the Eagles are 1st. I think this would probably be how a lot of people would rank them. The Bills beat the Ravens, so they get that one. The Ravens felt like this was the perfect year. They were loaded. The Bills, as the season went on, it felt like the perfect year. But in relation to September, this is what they did when they sort of changed the format there. I know it was another crushing finish, but like just Andy Dufresne that shit, Paul. Like just keep chiseling away. Chisel, chisel, chisel. The Chief fans, they should still be standing. I don't know why they've sat down. They should still be applauding.
Yeah, this is the weirdest
They
take
should
that
still
you
be
have.
applauding.
Like they're not like the Chiefs fans aren't mad at their team like you seem to think that they are.
No, I don't think they are. I'm still thinking they're not as grateful as they should be. That is what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're
It's a
mad.
crazy
They're
take.
indifferent. They should be fucking grateful. That's all. Washington, outside of winning the Super Bowl, they had the greatest season you could humanly possibly have in this goddamn game. They found the guy, the next big thing. The only thing more important than finding the next big thing is actually winning the whole goddamn thing. And the Eagles did it. The Eagles did it. Their quarterback has now played Mahomes twice in Super Bowls and outplayed him significantly in both games. The GM, what a savant. What else is there to say? There'll be more superstar college athletes that will wonder how they ended up on the Eagles in April or May, whenever it is. What a fucking team. What a team. But the winner here, obviously the game is about winning it all, so the Eagles, but the Commanders, Kenny Kim, it's like your world now. You got to think, you got to be in a headspace you couldn't have imagined being in 12 months ago. So for that, congratulations, friend. Now do make good on it. Make good on it, because I didn't. The Texans went to the same place, but you guys think can go fucking higher. So good luck. Those are my rankings.
The Ravens and the Bills are kind of like the Eskimo brothers of the AFC, Tim.
I don't know. I think if I were a Bills fan, I would be less optimistic than I would be if I were a
Why?
Ravens fan.
Let's ask Paul. Paul was sitting right there. Paul, you had very little expectation coming into the season, and they were good. Next year was the year that you were feeling good about, I think, weren't you?
I feel better about the season coming up than I did about this year.
Yeah.
There was a lot of moving parts and not a lot of brand new.
A lot.
Don't you think you'd have been far better off?
Now we have
Wouldn't you been-
another
Can
allotment of draft
you
picks.
criticized Geoff earlier for cutting Jared off. Why don't you let Paul
I
finish?
know.
I don't even have my earpiece in because I can't listen to myself at the same time. So sorry, Tim, I'm not actually listening. I'm just talking. But yeah, no, I mean onwards and upwards. It hurts to lose to the Chiefs, but kind of used to it at this point, and we'll be better next year. This was supposed to be a down year for the Bills, and they still got to the AFC Championship. Lost the same damn game we always lose, but we'll be better next year. We still have Josh
MVP.
Allen. That's all that matters.
As long as McDermott is still blowing the whistle, I don't think you have. I don't think you're going to win.
But you think a Ravens fan, it was all set up for them to finally do it. And then Lamar played shit.
That was more last year. That was more last year than this year, to be perfectly
No,
honest.
they
And
had
they had home
Derrick
field
Henry.
advantage.
I mean, yes and no, but I don't know, man. I know the Ravens don't get a go ahead of the Bills. Maybe in a preseason power rank,
If I'm
they
a
get a go
Ravens
ahead
fan,
of
I
the
go,
Bills.
look, if Mark Andrews can just hold on to the ball, they were going to beat Buffalo. The Buffalo was on the ropes.
They didn't, though.
The Ravens, no, they didn't, because Mark Andrews
So
dropped
what
the
a-
ball. But all he has to do is secure the ball, and let's be honest, they were going to put Buffalo to the sword.
Okay, hold on.
So-
Your revisionist history on this game is a little bit strange. He catches the 2-point conversion, then the game is tied. The Bills have a minute 40 to go kick a field goal and win the game anyway.
Tim will tell
mean-
you Allen had a minute 40 versus the Chiefs. He couldn't get it to field goal range.
Well, he had 3 minutes and 33 seconds in timeouts when the moment was biggest, and he couldn't execute. So I'm supposed to pretend like he's going to do it in a minute and 40 seconds. And anyway, we'll see. I just think the Ravens were on the path to winning that game had he held on. That's my opinion. It's unfalsifiable. We can't.
But if
prove
it if I got it,
Tim's right. If every game was 5 quarters, the Ravens would be fantastic. They'd have every Super Bowl with Lamar. That's
I mean,
It
basically
Tim,
seemed like they were
to be
wearing
fair-
just seemed like they were wearing Buffalo, and it would have been to Buffalo's advantage, I think, to lose that game and get McDermott fired and have a better coach.
McDermott gets him there every single year. Can he beat the Chiefs? It doesn't seem like it, but
He's got Marty Schottenheimer syndrome.
yeah, but no one is beating the Chiefs. Is the thing? Who else beat?
Well, I don't know.
Burrow is the only
no
guy
one-
who can beat him.
You see, no one's beating the Chiefs.
I still contend.
They've been crushed and not just
Okay,
lost.
yeah,
to,
you're right, Tim.
There is a path.
They lost 2 Super Bowls in
no,
the
but
past
there's a
7
clear
years.
way. There's a clear way to beat them.
Yeah,
which is just
and 2 teams over the
dominate
past,
their front.
what, 5 years, 6 years, have been able to put that together to beat them. I'd rather just beat the Chiefs and be good every year and win 2 of 3 years.
The Bills have invested. They've invested in the D line with a lot of draft capital and free agent capital. The Von Miller signing sucked, but I could think of a lot of guys, Epinesa, Ed Oliver, they have not rested in trying to do what you're saying they need to do. It's just, it's hard. To get that group of players that the Eagles got that can do it in waves. That's the envy of everybody.
Okay, sure.
But I don't know how fair and balanced when we're at this point of the game where we're at these sorts of teams, one team beat the other team in the playoffs. I mean, I guess it's just like you're like Lamar's so much better than Josh, therefore, like Ravens fans should be more excited than
No, I just think Ravens fans just have a more dynamic team. That's all. And in a softer
whose
division.
division might be easier.
Well, if the Patriots are on the up
Oh
and the
my
Jets are
God!
talented
Don't
and the Dolphins are
don't
good,
fucking
then-
do this. You just,
Well,
you just
then- all right,
argued
then I
about,
won't.
you just argued for the Dolphins to be like a last in these power rankings. You're like, the Dolphins are pretty good.
Well, in terms of fan expectations, yeah. I mean, in terms of fan expectations.
Well, yeah, but you're not the fan. That's the problem. You hate you hate the Bills, you hate the Dolphins, so they have to be way lower. Because obviously their fans think they suck because you think they suck.
I mean, the Bills are in a bad cap situation, but they
Can cut Von Miller and like get out of all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And where they are, like with the franchise at this moment, this is when you like kick the can down the road to pay the bills. This is not when you pay the bills. This is when you keep adding to the bill you have to pay in a few years. And I expect them to be hyper aggressive if some of those huge defensive ends are on the market to do what Tim is saying they need to do.
There was a putt off.
They know what they need to do.
By the way, at the end of this TGL match, Geoff, Wyndham Clark has hit it to 10 feet for eagle on the final hole. Hideki has 17 feet for eagle. If Hideki misses, Clark makes. Our Bay GC remains undefeated.
This is what it must feel like for Tim's buddies who love Legion 13. Like to cheer for just a truly dominant force in gimmick format golf. That's what being a Bay fan is like. Like, it's such a great feeling.
I stand to win a lot of money if the Bay wins the TGL, too. Let's go.
Well, Hideki did not make his putt.
All right. So, yeah, you let me know. We'll stay on the line to cheer on our Bay GC. I mean, obviously the Eagles are going to be at number one. I have a feeling that we're not going to do the second show. This one went on way too long. I was going to go like an hour and an hour, but of course we can't do that. And I think I had more fun doing the show anyway. And we have extra shows for next week while I'm gone. We'll come back and do those 21 questions about the NFL. But one of them was going to be, what team is bad that is going to be good next year? What team is good that's going to be bad next year? I could see Washington being bad next year. I really could.
Yeah, expectation.
Not if the quarterback is as good as he played this year.
Division.
Not possible.
It's a tough division.
Hey, Joe Burrow just missed the playoffs, man.
Yeah, but he still won 9 games, and the team won 9 games here. But like when you say really bad, like that to me is like a 5-12 type of team.
I could see them being like 7-10. Like their defense isn't good.
That doesn't constitute really bad to me.
They do have 80 million.
No. Well, listen, they were good. They just made it to the NFC Championship game. They put in. They're number 2 in Jeff's, like how hyped their fans are for them. If they go 7-10 next year, fans are going to be pissed.
Oh, it'd be very.
Do you know who was
disappointed.
2 last year? It was like Houston had to have probably been 2 in my 2 or 3.
Wyndham Clark knocks down the putt for the Bay.
The Bay! The Bay can't be beat.
They have 80 million in cap room, so they will get to plug a lot of holes that were, but in terms of expectation, you're right, Pat. Like it will be almost they have to go to the Super Bowl to almost meet the expectation. I mean, Houston in some ways had the same thing, and they were good. They won a playoff game, but they weren't in the class of the teams who were talking about it getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right. That was a fun show.
All right.
Glad we got back together. Tim, I think the show in this format is better than you think it is.
I'm not being critical. I just don't know how it'll play. That's all.
Listen, people demanded that we do more off-season shows. We're giving the people what they want.
And that's great. If the people love it, I'm glad they enjoy it. I live to serve.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see people vote in the Custies because those are still open. I did not mention that off the top of the show. The link was broken in the last show that we did because too many votes had come in. We have a new vote. That ballot box has been put to the side. The new one is in the description right now. And what you really need to do is come June 7th to Toronto to see us at the Rec Room for a live version of Cust Corner featuring Tim and Cust.
Tim and Cust.
That is not my name.
And Geoff, I really appreciate you putting together these power rankings. I know it's a lot of prep.
Not a lot of prep. Jared asked me if I could have them in on a date. I said, I'll get them to you tomorrow. And I hammered them out. I overthought about it a lot. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure I made a couple mistakes, but hey, yeah, I had fun thinking about it. I love the league so much. I love the league, and I don't want to get long-winded, but I watched a couple clips, long extended interview from ESPN Australia with Commissioner Goodell and with Kevin Dimitrov, the president of the Rams. And the president of the Rams is already bragging that he has 2 years to prepare for the trip. So the other team would like to know if they're going so they can have 2 years to prepare for the trip. And then when they said the guy doing the interview was like, I'm looking at the schedule. He named the teams. They're like the Rams president face lit up when they said the Chargers. So it's just more bad news.
You're watching TGL right now, right, Tim?
It's ended, but yes.
Did you ever think that you would have consumed more TGL this year than Live?
No, I wouldn't.
And you have,
I
haven't
can't
you?
watch it on TV. I can't watch it on TV.
But so basically, what I'm saying is, I was watching the play-by-play. It all just kind of updated. Did Boston call a timeout to try
Yes.
to freeze Wyndham Clark before he made his putt? So essentially, they gave him more time to line up his putt.
Rory called a timeout.
Why?
Was Wyndham
Well, yeah,
very
but it's not like icing the kicker because it gives him more time to read the green.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was also using. I mean, Hideki putted first,
I was
so maybe
trying
it
to-
was to give. Maybe it was
trying
to give Hideki more time to read his putt. I don't know.
Did Wyndham like crotch chop or do anything like when he hit the putt? Because
No, it
he's
was just a normal celebration.
good for him. Go bet our boys. Bay wagon.
That will do it for us. Like I mentioned, smash like, sub to the channel, sub to that newsletter if you want first access to tickets, which I'm trying to get that it's either going to be at the door, Geoff, or as a part of the ticket when you buy it, that you get to put in a Cust Corner topic that you want to hear about, that we will do a bunch of them live, all the good ones.
Oh yeah, we should have them in a jar that we can just pull them out. At
No,
random.
no. Those, they need to be
I
vetted.
think Tim
Tim.
should
They need to be
pick the
vetted.
good ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
We can just vet them live.
You
No,
know-
that's terrible.
I mean, that would be kind of funny. But, I mean, you never know what's terrible and what's not. The ones you think are going to be
True.
bad are always the big hits.
That's
You gotta vet them.
Well, thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We got more of this coming. We have a brand new Cust Corner 50. Me, Cust, and Garion coming out next week. Geoff and I will have our golf shows as we do every single Monday. There is content every single day on Mayo Media Network and the Pat Mayo Experience feed. So please, even if you were here for football, or maybe just tune in once a week for football. Maybe that's all you need to do. But there is more out there if you want more Pat Mayo Experience in your life. All right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!